And now we play this. I'll be right back. Katie Mickey Mouse show because of my whole being. The intro is demonic. You're just a hater, Katie.
But first, I thought we would watch a little clip of the interview that Ian actually pulled from to include in his Content Cop video. Are you in pain? Are you remembering the pain of what was hurting at that time? What is the pain?
I think just being like super lost and not feeling like I have any control over anything. But I will say that Anissa was like my only amount of like stability during that, so like that kind of helped me in a way.
Yeah.
Because she was very I mean, she was experiencing it too, but I think she was much more grounded, like leading into it. So, you know, I also see the dynamic of Ethan and Neil, and I'm like, fuck, like, it's just really, it's really hard to be,
I'm back. I put a Pop-Tart in the toaster.
Little clip of the interview that Ian actually pulled from to include in his Content Cop video. Are you in pain? Are you remembering the pain of what was hurting at that time? What is the pain?
Wait, does Psychology in Seattle record this on his own end as well? Or did he get the footage from Ian? Not Pop-Tart, sorry. Toaster strudel, not Pop-Tart.
I think just being like super lost and not feeling like I have any control over anything.
Recorded into the for this Ian? Okay.
But I will say that Anissa was like my only amount of like stability during that, so like that kind of helped me in a way.
Yeah.
Because she was very I mean, she was experiencing it too, but I think she was much more grounded, like leading into it. So, you know, I also see the dynamic of Ethan and Neil, and I'm like, fuck, like, it's just really it's really hard to be a couple online and see people attacking your partner, and it's like, okay,
Like,
like,
I wouldn't have done this given the context of the concept of it. What do you mean? Wouldn't have done what?
if you come to their defense, that doesn't always help them, right? Sometimes that makes it worse for them. So I'm seeing Ethan go through a lot of that, Ethan and Neil.
Okay, so I wanted to use that clip as an introduction to this video. I'll show more from that interview later on. So recently I was in an iDubbbz video, a Content Cop video, the first Content Cop video that he has published in 7 years. In this video, iDubbbz goes after Ethan Klein. The video, of course, has millions of views. Everyone is talking about it on the internet right now. And I have heard from a lot of you saying that you're worried about me because you know about the toxicity of these kinds of dramas, and this drama specifically, and the larger drama about the war in Gaza. And along these lines, the online assholes have already showed up in my inbox, of course. I knew that this would happen. And I wasn't planning on doing this, but I thought that I would provide a little video here describing my involvement in the video. So first off, if you're new to this channel, my name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I have been a therapist and a professor since around 1997, and I started this podcast, Psychology in Seattle, in 2008, 17 years ago. And I have been making all sorts of content psychology related. So I thought the best way to explain my involvement in iDubbbz Content Cop video was to give a brief summary of the chronology up until this point. So I took some notes here. Back in May of 2023, so 2 years ago, many people were asking me to analyze an apology video by iDubbbz. I only knew iDubbbz from Creator Clash, which was
Okay, I'm back for real now. I have my toaster strudel.
It's really hard. And it's Ethan and Neil.
from that interview later on. So recently I was in an iDubbbz video, a Content Cop video, the first Content Cop video that he has published in 7 years. In this video, iDubbbz goes after Ethan Klein. The video, of course, has millions of views.
You have a link to the channel. This video was taken down. This is a deleted video that he was forced to take down by the Kleinsman because they were mad at at a charitable interpretation of Ian's video. It wasn't even uncharitable to Ethan. It was just charitable to Ian. And then Ethan Klein got mad at it. And so the Kleiners forced him to take this video down.
Everyone is talking about it on the internet right now. And
Cover
I
the
have
skull
heard
stuff
from
thing,
a lot of
no?
you
I have not covered the skull thing.
saying that you're worried about me because you know about the toxicity of these kinds of dramas, and this drama specifically, and the larger drama about the war in Gaza. And along these lines, the online assholes have already showed up in my inbox, of course. I knew that this would happen, and I wasn't planning on doing this, but I thought that I would provide a little video here describing my involvement in the video. So first off, if you're new to this channel, my name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I have been a therapist and a professor since around 1997, and I started this podcast, Psychology in Seattle, in 2008, 17 years ago. And I have been making all sorts of content psychology related. So I thought the best way to explain my involvement in iDubbbz content cop video was to give a brief summary of the chronology up until this point. So I took some notes here. Back in May of 2023, so 2 years ago, many people were asking me to analyze an apology video by iDubbbz. I only knew iDubbbz from Creator Clash, which was the year prior. So I didn't know what he would be apologizing for because I didn't know what he was known for, what he had published prior. So I watched his apology video and analyzed it, and I gave him a B. And to my surprise, he commented on the video, which was interesting because that doesn't usually happen. And I came to learn that he and his wife, Anissa, have been fans of...
I am curious about why he gave Ian a B and gave Ethan an A and then refused to change Ethan's grade. Because just purely on the material reality of the apology, Ian apologized for flagrant use of slurs in his behavior in his old content and then changed his content. Ethan apologized for laughing at Cutie during the deepfake saga, and then he immediately was memeing about it. I mean, not immediately. Then he started memeing about it in a non-genuine way. Subject matter and tone, which I understand. I can understand giving Ethan like an A+ or whatever for his apology. But again, that's why I said last stream, I feel as though the behavior that follows the apology is like the important part, right? You can say all the right words and all the correct words, but if your behavior does not follow through, right, then like it's kind of meaningless, right? Like if I shoot your best friend and I say the most sincere apology, but then like the next week I'm laughing, right, at the fact that I shot your best friend, it doesn't matter what I say, but it doesn't matter it basically it's not even like an apology rating. It's like, did you say the correct words rating, right? Did you find the correct, sequence of words that make you look good? I know it seems not normal to write apologies. What is this? No, it's entirely normal, chat. It's content. Like it's as normal as like making an N-word tier list, which I've done. Right? It's as normal as doing a live analysis of Let It Shine. It's content. You know what I mean?
my channel. Then about a year later, in February of 2024, so about a year ago, Stacy and I, my wife, we were at a breakfast joint here in Seattle, and Ian and Anissa, if you don't know, iDubbbz, his name is Ian. Ian and his wife Anissa approached our table because they saw us walk in. We connected and started talking about being on each other's podcast, and then we started to chat more off air and text each other and stuff, and I would watch one of his unboxing videos and laugh, and I would text him and say, that was a funny bit there, or whatever. And I, over time, started to learn more about their lives. Even on the podcast, we talked about their lives and the history of their childhood and their families, and also what they went through regarding the recent cancellation or internet drama that they had been going through. And it might surprise many of you that Ian, off air, is very soft-spoken. He's a really good listener, actually, as well. In fact, my wife only knows Ian through meeting him in person. And when she saw the content cop video, the one right here with Ethan, my wife was actually surprised at how brazen and how outspoken he is in the video. The other thing that is notable is that it was pretty clear to me that he deeply regretted what he had done before online, that he knew now just how bigoted and toxic and hurtful it was. I'll never forget him telling me a story. I don't know if it was on the air or not, but he was at a public event of some sort, and one of his fans approached him and said, "Look, I know you don't like my people," meaning trans, "but I'm a big fan, so can you sign this?" or something like that. And in that moment, Ian, person, and when she saw the content cop video, the one right here with Ethan, my wife was actually surprised at
in the same way that apology reviews is his content bit, apology long-term follow-up is not his content bit. I don't think Ethan feels the same about his past.
How brazen and how outspoken he is in the video. The other thing that is notable is that it was pretty clear to me that he deeply regretted what he had done before online, that he knew now just how bigoted and toxic and hurtful it was. I'll never forget him telling me a story. I don't know if it was on the air or not, but he was at a public event of some sort, and one of his fans approached him and said, "Look, I know you don't like my people," meaning trans, "but I'm a big fan, so can you sign this?" or something like that. And in that moment, Ian, just his heart broke and sunk and was hurting because he thought, "Oh, this is a human being. This is someone, and they're a fan. They know that I don't like them just because they're trans. Like there's something terribly wrong with my career at this point." And that had been a buildup. He had started to notice the way that the internet was, or the way his fans were, or the monster that he had created online because his fans were going after people, that kind of thing. And so he started to seriously question what he was doing. And so he started to not make that kind of content anymore. But he wasn't being vocal about his change of heart, and he was investigating it even further, through therapy, self-reflection, talking to his wife, experiencing the kind of bullying that she went through and the kind of toxicity that she was experiencing. And then he was starting to think, am I a part of that online bullying? I'm watching someone that I love go through that bullying. Am I one of those bullies? Not to Anissa, but to is there another Anissa out there that I've been attacking? And having that empathy, right? When people exhibit lack of empathy, usually it's because they haven't been given an opportunity to understand what other people are going through. When you understand what other people are going through, it gives you an opportunity to have your natural empathy engaged, and that's what happened for him. Now, I want to say that a lot of you actually reached out to me when I started to collaborate with iDubbbz, telling me that I should not be collaborating with him because of the things that he has done. And those kinds of conversations are important. And if I were to blanketly endorse everything that he had done in the past, then that would be horrible of me, actually. But a lot of things are exhibited and playing out in my relationship with iDubbbz. One is that just on a personal level, I can relate to the online hate that he and Anissa received. I have only experienced 1% of that, but even that 1% was very hard to deal with emotionally. And when I would reach out to other content providers, they would almost always say things like, "Well, you just have to have a thick skin." And I thought, okay, I need to have a thick skin. Well, that didn't work for me. And I began to wonder if a lot of people were saying you have to have a thick skin because they didn't know what else to say or do, and that a lot of people were suffering. And then recently, over the last couple of years, I saw a lot of YouTubers with millions of subscribers closing shop and not making videos anymore because I think, and they would say sometimes, that it was because of their fans, even the way that they talk to the content provider. So I started to wonder if I might actually have to figure this out on my own, and that other content providers don't have an approach or a system or any sort of wisdom about how to cope with this. And I thought, well, I've been through a lot of therapy myself. As a profession and as a professor and as a content provider, it's important that I at least try to understand our psychology and our experience and how to deal with things. And there's some parallels to being a professor and a therapist. And so I have my own approach. And so to see someone else go through this and to have them experience the fallout, even if I might say he deserved to have some fallout from what he put out there into the world for a number of years, the feelings and the experiences, I think, are not only personally interesting to me, but I feel like I want to provide a way of talking about this, because there's this notion out there that you will hear a lot of people say that, well, they're famous, so then the gloves can come off, right? They know what they're getting into, or they're rich and famous, so it doesn't matter if we bully them or hurt them or try to attack them. They're a public figure. They know what they signed up for. And what I would say to that is, just because someone's a public figure, then you can be a psychopath? No. And there's a lot of pain and loneliness in the world, and people are trying.
I don't think Reddit's down. Is Reddit down? Reddit's not down for me. Wait, yes it is. Never mind.
trying to cope with it in a variety of ways. And one of the ways that we've known
first it was 4chan, now it's Reddit. That's just how the cookie crumbles.
about even before the internet is through social comparison and bullying. When you are on the playground and you see a bully, everyone understands that
old Reddit does still work. I don't use old Reddit because I didn't use Reddit when it was back like it looks like this.
Bully is not dealing with emotions well, that they are not confident, that they are not secure, that probably bad things are happening at home, right? Well, a lot of people have bad things that have happened in their past and present, and they go online and they take it out on other people, and it's understood among society that it's completely okay to unrelentingly bully a public figure, even if they're just a public figure on YouTube, right? So that kind of thinking needs to change, which, you know, it makes sense that society doesn't really understand that yet. The internet is relatively new. Content providers and their feelings are relatively new, that sort of thing. So there's that. The other reason why I'm interested in all of this is because if we're going to make the world a better place and we're going to see eye to eye, understand the other side of the aisle, reach out to other groups of people to try to work together. If we're going to do that, then we have to stop interacting with other people online the way that we tend to interact with other people online. And I saw an opportunity with iDubbbz, not only just for his sake, but also just for my mission to try to make the world a better place by demonstrating that through love, and I don't use that word lightly, but through love, through understanding, through, I believe, an accurate understanding of the human condition.
Or, as some would say, through like, or more than a like.
We might actually be able to push things forward in a positive way for everybody. Because the way that people tend to react to these things is through cancellation and hatred and black and white thinking, which leads us to a lot of the ills of society today and in the past. So I saw an opportunity with iDubbbz to change and reemerge as a content provider with his new paradigm of empathy and understanding other people's experiences and still providing entertainment and meaning and purpose. So I mean,
we're 13 minutes in and I still haven't seen anything that like would make me think that this person is like anti-Ethan. Like, this is actually like a pro-Ethan take. That like content creators should not be harassed just by the virtue of being public figures, and that some people co-sign that harassment, right? Just because, oh, they are a large figure, they signed up for this. And Ethan drew issue with this?
This would be a good example of this sort of thing because it almost never happens, right? You know, you've all heard of, or even you know someone maybe, who is a bigot, right? Well, we want, obviously, that person to not be a bigot anymore. And the typical way of reacting to them is through hatred and anger and attacking that person. And maybe they deserve some of that, but that's not usually what changes the person, right? It often just makes them worse. And we have seen that in other content providers, people like Joe Rogan, for example. So if we're going to actually get what we want, what my political side wants, it has to be through love. It has to be through understanding and empathy, giving people a sense.
He's a leftist. Of course he's anti-Ethan then. He's on the left side of the political spectrum, but Ethan's reactionary, so like, you know, that makes sense.
Second chance. People who exhibit that they want a second chance. We have to give them that chance. Otherwise, no one else will repent. No one else will apologize. No one else will make that choice that iDubbbz made, which was to say, oh my God, I was a bigot. That was horrible. I apologize. I feel bad. If we don't help someone like that, then why would anyone else do it?
I don't even disagree with this, right? Same shirt, by the way. My issue with this falls in that there still needs to be some initial, you know, movement from that person. You know what I mean? There needs to be some initial movement from that person in order for that change to take place. Right? I think giving Ian that chance is good, right? Because Ian took a step, he apologized for his behavior, but Ethan did not apologize for his past anti-SJW behavior. That was the difference between the two. Ian said, I'm sorry for what I did in the past in this way, for this behavior. Ethan did not.
In the future. I'm really passionate about that, again, for personal reasons, but also for the greater good of society, which is the whole purpose of my career. I decided to become a therapist in large part because I wanted to make the world a better place in that way. Going back to my notes, Ian and Anissa were both being heavily bullied before, during, and after the apology. People were saying things like, you know, iDubbbz, his apology was fake. He's a grifter. He doesn't really care about anybody. he's always been a bigot, he still is a bigot.
Or a lot of less tapped in internet assumes that Ethan did apologize, and that's the problem, right? Not even just a problem like they assume Ethan apologized, is that they will like attack me for saying that Ethan didn't apologize. Right? I'll say that Ethan has never properly atoned for his behavior, and they're like, but he apologized though. Right? So it's not that they assume he's apologized. They like go and like they become like an Ethan dick writer and be like, he apologized, with no evidence that he apologized. Right? They take Ethan saying, I've apologized in the past, right, as an actual apology. And he didn't do that.
Other people saying Anissa is like a Yoko Ono, manipulating him from behind the scenes, that Ian is pussy whipped, this kind of stuff. Or Anissa is a slut because she has an OnlyFans, and Ian is a cuck for even allowing Anissa to have an OnlyFans. If you know, you know, and it's way worse than even I'm describing it. And these aren't just random a-holes on the internet that are rare. This was the dominant discourse around the two of them. So when I was interacting with Ian and Anissa, both on their podcast, my podcast, and off microphone, I noticed that Ian was deeply unsure of himself, and he was deeply ashamed. It was almost like
they'll say he acknowledges behavior as if that's an apology. Yeah, they're not synonymous.
Like he was cocooning after realizing what he had done, and also experiencing the amount of vitriol that he had been experiencing, both from his long-term haters, but also even his own fans, right? Not only experienced the regular sort of criticism, but even his own fans hated him, that kind of thing. So he was, in a very raw way, questioning everything, and also just questioning whether or not he would ever make content again. He was still making some content, but it was more safe for, right, the podcast or an unboxing video or something. And he wondered if he could ever make videos again without it evolving into toxicity and bigotry and hatred, and without it involving the kind of toxicity that happens from the audience, that kind of thing. Or without him 10 years later regretting harming people in that video, right? He was really ashamed, deeply ashamed, and deeply unsure of himself. And by the way, I asked him today if it was okay that I talked about all this, and he said, yeah, you have full license, you know, talk about whatever you want to. So after learning a lot about his life and the sort of things that Ian and Anissa had been experiencing, and also learning about what sort of content he had been making prior, I was suggesting that he start thinking about, if he wanted to, how to make content cop videos that were from his new paradigm. Maybe they wouldn't be called content cop videos, but they would be in his voice that he had developed over time, and that the audience was hoping from him again, right? And I was, you know, probably just a minor element of the story for him. You know, the story that he's been on, the therapy and his relationship with Anissa has been very therapeutic for him and Anissa, and just all the ups and downs and trying to figure out how he fits into the creator world. And, you know, I'm just a tiny part of it, but I do remember having that hope that he could come out of this on the other side with a new perspective, a new foundation, start experimenting with his new perspective in a way that could be a force for good. So along those lines, when Ian recently, a couple weeks ago, texted me and said that he was working on a content cop video that he wanted me to be involved in, and I was curious as to what the video was going to be about, and so he told me what it was going to be about, and he showed me some footage of Ethan bullying him and Anissa during some of his live streams. And I agreed to do it because I wanted to support my friends, Anissa and Ian, but also because I wondered if I might be able to, in my small way, enter into the conversation with Ethan, that maybe I could influence the message that would be sent to Ethan. Not that I would manipulate.
Yeah, I mean, that, I understand. And like, it's kind of like a fool's errand regardless, because like Ethan just is not going to listen, but like I understand what the point of the goal was, is that bringing in psychology in Seattle as a way to kind of like diffuse the situation. Ethan just still like, Ethan didn't even attack him directly in like his response. He instead said that like Kirk was is going to be dual streamed on YouTube too. Is it not?
Relate Ian's video or anything.
Am I not live on YouTube? Oh, it's private. Why is it private? Why does YouTube do this sometimes? It has 0 viewers because it's private. Gosh darn it. Well, at least the VOD does start 20 minutes ago. So you can go back and watch the VOD there. This will be on my VOD channel anyway. Man.
Anything, but that my vibe or way might, I don't know, get to Ethan somehow, because what I was seeing from the clips that Ian was sending me it very much seemed like Ethan was struggling deeply. This is what Ian was talking about in the Content Cop video, where I said to Ian, it kind of looks like he just needs a hug. And what I meant by that was he seems like he's struggling. When we're struggling and we are terrified and we are in a chronic state of fear, we are going to say things that we wouldn't normally. We're going to think and believe things and see things through a lens that we wouldn't normally. And often those people need love, get away from the fear if possible, so that they can return to baseline. And we can't take what they're saying seriously, or we have to put it within that context. You know, as an analogy, when you have a child, for the analogy I always give is you're teaching your daughter how to ride a bicycle, and you're holding on to the seat as you're trotting alongside of her, and she turns to you and says, "Let go, I want to do it on my own, I want to do it on my own." And you're like, "Okay." And you let go, and she goes for a while, and you're going, "Yay." And then she crashes, and she falls down, and she skins her knee, and you run up, and you're trying to help her, and she screams at you, "Why did you let go
channel? Yeah.
of my seat?" Well, in that moment, we as parents don't yell at the kid and say, "You told me to let go of the seat, you jerk face." We don't do that. We understand. When people are going through something, they're going to believe and say things that they wouldn't normally, right? Well, that applies to anyone of any age. That doesn't excuse things, but it explains things and provides a treatment. It provides a path to help them. If you actually are interested in helping Ethan or helping to divert his pathway, whatever that's on, and the influence that he has, then love and understanding is the answer. Not that I'm just like, oh, everything's about love, but it works. And it feels better, and it feels more logical, and I sleep better at night. So I was hoping possibly that he might get some of that message. And the way that it looked to me was that, again, Ethan was struggling with really a classic case of fear and paranoia. He had started with legitimate fears about Israel, Palestinians, Jewish people in general, his wife, his extended family, that sort of thing. His fears were totally justified and legitimate. Then, seemingly, I wasn't there for this progression, but, and actually talking with Ian, he confirmed this path, that seemingly Ethan did not have an approach to managing his mental state and his contact with the news cycle and the comments. When this sort of thing is happening, how much news do you consume? How many comments, if you're a content provider, do you read all the comments? Do you read the entire subreddit section?
You read 0. That's the answer, and that is the only answer that matters. You read 0% of the comments. You don't read the comments. The comments are a cesspool. They're not good. Like, for the past few days, people have been going and arguing in my Instagram comment sections. I don't read Instagram, obviously, or my YouTube comments. I just turned them off. I'm just like, you know, why would I? Why would I? You don't engage with the hate comments. They're stupid. They're dumb. Just do your content. Go about your life. But Ethan is unhealthy. He has an unhealthy mindset about this.
That kind of thing. And he seemed to have an approach that he just absorbs all that constantly. And this is what Ian was getting at in his Content Cop video, was that his employees are maybe even encouraged by him to feed him everything, and maybe even especially the hatred, because that's what gives him fuel to talk about online. Well, that will do a number on your soul. It's going to affect you. It's going to infect you if you don't have a way of pushing back on it. So he gets more hurt, more angry, more fearful, and becomes more black and white thinking, more reactive. He starts to fight back. Initially, it's probably somewhat justified, maybe sometimes crossing the line. Then those people hear that and they attack back, and more random people are attacking, some of which are justified, but some of which is not, and over the top, and racist and anti-Semitic. And then it creates this feedback loop.
Yo! Foreign, thank you for the raid. Foreign raid, welcome in, Raiders. Hello, hello, hello. Hope you had a good stream. We're talking about Ethan Klein. I know. And the harassment he sent towards this actually very nice and chill dude, Psychology in Seattle, for just making this video. But yeah, welcome in, Raiders. Oh geez, Ethan harassing the Psychology guy. Yes. Ethan, not even harassed this Psychology guy, harassed him into taking down this video, privating his Instagram, and then taking down his Instagram entirely. Wait, I didn't see Ethan post about him. Yeah, because Ethan took it down. He posted on his Instagram story, and then he took it down out of his Instagram story after this video got taken down. And then a few hours later, his Instagram became private, and then he took down his Instagram entirely. He's gonna pretend like he didn't have anything to do with this.
where he gets funneled all that. He has no approach to pushing back. He gets more terrified, more worried,
so
more
gross,
convinced
yeah.
that the straw man is out there that he's built up in his mind. And he gets more worried, more terrified, more angry, more hostile. That's what he knows how to do. And he goes after them and has...
Dan acted like he doesn't feed Ethan talking shit on the podcast. Exactly. Dan acted like he doesn't, like, it's not his job to find what people are saying and feed it to Ethan to make him mad.
Spontaneous reactions on his live streams and doesn't seem to have any approach to how to manage what he says other than the button, right? And no one around him seems to be able to or interested in helping him with this. Meanwhile, Ethan's mental state is declining and declining and declining. And
Get it? Decline. Decline. Ethan Klein. Okay, sorry.
then at some point, he hears, as Ian talks about in the Content Cop video, that this random editor with a very small following says something really horrible towards Ethan. And Ethan is fed this information as he's fed almost everything that his people or Ethan himself can find on the internet. I mean, Ethan reads the snark subreddit for H3, which I just find just patently unhealthy for him.
Yeah.
There's just no way that can be helpful to him. So he is seeing that this person is saying a toxic thing. He also learns that that person used to work for iDubbbz or might currently, and then he thinks, oh, iDubbbz, I thought he was a friend, and he's not speaking out against that person. And because I'm in such a state of fear and paranoia, and I don't use that word lightly, not because he started that way, but because of the non-management of what he was exposed to. And you just think about what's been happening over the past year and a half for Ethan. Through his paranoia, he interprets that, learning about that toxic thing that someone who used to be associated with Ian before, as evidence that Ian and Anissa are secretly against him. And that hurts him. It makes him feel afraid. This is not the first time this has happened for him in all likelihood. There have probably been other times when it might have been more confirmed or there was better data indicating that someone that he thought he could trust, he couldn't really actually trust, right? Not only could he not trust that person, but that those people were actually...
Like, this is completely accurate, right? It's unhealthy that Ethan gets fed this information from his subreddit, right? Or he seeks this information out on the Snark subreddit, or his employees feed this information to him. That's unhealthy, number one, right? And then his response to that is unhealthy because he takes that and then it just like festers in his mind. He's like, okay, this person is tangentially related to and associated with this person, which means this person is supposed to be a friend of mine, must be an enemy of mine because they're associated with this person. Even though this person has a small following, even though this person is like, not even associated with them at all. Like, it's literally, he's in a fictional world that he's made up, where everybody is like directly harassing him and he must be defending himself because, he must be correct. Remember Dan saying that Ethan should block Hassan on Insta, and Ethan immediately said no without elaborating why? I mean, he follows Hassan because he wants to stalk Hassan's Instagram stories because he wants to see if Hassan posts about him.
Harmful, scary element in his life, calling CPS on him and supporting that or whatever, right? And you just think about that, right? That when that happens, then when it starts to come into your house, from what I understand, the CPS workers actually entered the house to conduct an investigation. So Ethan goes off on Ian and Anissa on the air again because his style is spontaneous and off the cuff, and there's no guardrails except for that button, which isn't really a guardrail. It just kind of gives, as Ian was pointing out, him more freedom to just say whatever and think. And that's what Ian was getting at in the Content Cop video, was that it seems like Ethan...
Remember a CPS raid? The only proof is a card that Ethan provided. But again, we just don't know. It's either we take Ethan's word on the raid happening and have to argue about who called the raid or who didn't call the raid or who's responsible for it, or there's no way for us to determine if it happened or not happened. Right? A card, yeah, it's like a CPS, like a business card. Yeah, sorry, it's not a raid, Sorry, I think Ethan and Neil Klein, I think of raids. You know what I mean? But yeah, if the visit happened, it's like the skull thing, from what I understand, right? We have to take Ethan's word for that the skulls were sent to his house or his office or wherever they were sent to. Right? There's no way for us to disprove that information. We can't say no, it wasn't, or whatever. So now we all have to at least give some level of credence to the story that Ethan is weaving to argue about whether or not it's correct or not. Do you think I'd rather believe him than be bad faith, to be honest? So is this a spoiler? Yeah. It is a slight spoiler.
has no boundary or editor in his mind. And the button actually was a solution to a problem that made the problem worse. Because as a content provider, even if you're an edgy comedian online, there has to be some line, some concern about how you're affecting other people, right? Some empathy, right? You'll have an impulse to say something and you'll think, well, it seems kind of funny and appropriate now, but if I were in someone else's shoes, what effect would that have on someone? I probably shouldn't go that far, right? It's not that you're being disingenuous and not saying the truth. You're incorporating the bigger picture. And if you don't have that inside of you, then you're just going to speak completely from whatever just happens to emerge for you impulsively. And Ian made a great case for that. So again, I agreed to be in the video, and he came over to my house and to my home recording studio, and we recorded. This is footage from that. And we talked for over 3 hours. And I, at some point, said, I think we should probably cut this off. And we were having a really in-depth conversation. There were a lot of ups and downs. And so when I handed over all of the footage, I just gave it to him. I was thinking I wasn't going to be in the video because I was thinking, how in the world, in a content, in his style, how could he use anything that we said in that video? Because it was so slow and, you know, in my yammering way, it was slow-paced and emotional and vulnerable and nuanced, and I just thought, I can't imagine he's going to use any of that. And I even told him, I said, if you don't use any of this footage, I'm not going to be insulted, or if you use like 3 seconds, you know, whatever. And I trusted him, and I didn't want to give him the impression that I didn't trust him, because I didn't want to poison the well in that way. I wanted him to go for it. I knew I was taking a risk, but I knew enough of him to trust that at the very least it wouldn't be negative for me. And that approach is something that I learned as a therapist, not only in practice, but also theoretically, that people behave the way that you treat them, the way that you believe in them. Either way, right? If you treat them poorly and don't believe in them, then they tend to behave in ways that are problematic, sometimes to you. But if you believe in people and you say, I know that you can do the right thing, I believe in you, then across the board, and this is demonstrated through empirical observation, that people will behave in more responsible, empathetic, non-problematic ways. Not all the time, but it has a huge effect on people. And that believing in Ian does not mean disbelieving in Ethan, or vice versa. So I thought I would actually watch a few clips from the over 3-hour conversation that I had with Ian.
This is dipping my toes in a very there's a lot of controversial topics around it. Ethan's a controversial guy.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I'm happy that you're doing it, because
there are people pointing out that the skull has a tag that points to a website that sells skulls, and the serial number on that tag lines up, so it appears as a real skull, to be a real skull, but it being back on their site means it was returned. We'll get to that in a second. Maybe we'll do like in depth about that. I just don't know.
You know, jumping back into the deep end, which the internet needs you now.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So that's the very beginning of the recording, and that's in line with what I was saying earlier. But the main thing that he wanted me to do when we were meeting was to watch this video that he made. Let's watch that video now.
A couple years ago, Ethan Klein was playing a video clip of Cutie Cinderella, a fellow streamer, crying about a very traumatic situation she was going through involving Atrioc and this whole deepfake porn situation. And Ethan Klein very stupidly played a comedic soundbite, and he just lost it. You know, he was cackling. Ethan recognized that it was not a good thing to do, so he pretty quickly apologized.
If I had known...
All right, just stop talking about the skull, chat, please. We'll get to it after this video.
That the whole video was concluding on me changing the grade. I still would have refused to change my grade, but I would have done it in a much more careful way, because I thought that he was just experimenting with different elements of the content cop video. I thought I was going to be one of hundreds of possible things that he would put in, and I thought since I didn't change the grade, I wouldn't even make it in the video. And I asked him about it actually today, and he said that he thought I was going to change the grade, and that when I didn't change the grade, he had to completely rewrite the ending, the epilogue to that hour-long content cop video. And he had to, and maybe influenced, to make it more positive. And then he reached out to all those content providers for them to all say something nice in light of what I had done. And I thought, oh my God.
I don't know. Maybe he thought it would make his series of like grading apologies invalid if he could just be like reached out to and then like, you know what I mean? Reached out to and been like, oh, your grades are now invalid because you changed Ethan Klein's grade. He wants to seem as though it had some objectivity to it. You know what I mean?
I mean, it is what I was hoping. I mean, not that specifically, but that message I was hoping to influence. I didn't realize I would be that pivotal. I didn't realize I was, you know, I can imagine for him being quite disappointed after we had that 3-hour conversation. We hung out after.
Yeah, I would have to like that nice video. True.
You know, and just, you know, shot the shit.
He pretty quickly apologized. Now that apology was pretty well recognized.
Also, that was a joke. My video was sincere. And Ethan, I hope you enjoyed my level of sincerity.
good apology amongst the non-experts, but the experts also weighed in. I mean, as much as you can be an expert in apologies, it's not like an official title or anything, but Dr. Kirk Honda weighed in. Now, Ethan was able to hit most, if not all, the points on this grading scale. Basically, this resulted in Ethan getting an A+ apology. You could say that I'm salty because I got a B+.
The other thing that he showed me, and when we were watching this video a couple weeks ago, I asked him, what is this? Did you put together this graphic that has all my apology video grades? Because there was a point a while back where I wanted to actually go back and watch all my apology videos and write down all the grades that I'd given because I had forgotten. Because in some later apology videos, I would be referring to past apologies, and I wanted to be able to contrast grades and the rubric that I use, that kind of thing. And I asked him, I said, did you make this? That's amazing. And he's like, no, H3, Ethan Klein and his people or his fans or something put together this web page, and each is a clickable thing to take you to my video, and it's heavily featured on the H3 podcast or the fan site, I can't remember which, because of how often Ethan talks about it and how vindicating or how praising it is to Ethan, because he is the only one that has maybe even received an A.
The apology, in my opinion, has just served to like boost his ego and kind of give him an out.
You know, he rated my apology to Cutie Cinderella a perfect score, a perfect 10.
A perfect 10 out of 10?
Literally 10 out of 10. Go back. I can teach you how to make a good apology. I'm
Right,
best
10
at
out of 10.
I know what a perfect apology is, lady.
When Ethan initially had talked about my video, my apology analysis of him, people were sending me the link, like, oh my God, you know, Ethan talked about you. Because people know that I'm a small-time YouTuber, and so they're just like, do you know that a famous person is talking about you? And I took it that way. And I think maybe there was another time that people were sending me, but I just thought that was it.
People will do that.
Watching.
You're not even like a small creator, but like if you're just a creator, people will always be like, hey, did you see what this person said about you? Which you should do, chat. I think it's funny.
This
to me, not
mashup
to anybody else.
Of all these little clips, I asked Ian, I was like, does he really talk about my grade this often? And Ian said, yes, and the stuff I'm showing you right now is a small portion of the amount of times that he refers to your grade of his apology, which was interesting and flattering, I will say.
Everybody saying about you? I have not. I've seen everybody say, who is this nobody, though? It makes me kind of shit.
I think deserved. It was a good apology. If you didn't watch the apology, watch it or watch my analysis of it. But it was very long, very authentic in his way, very off the cuff, and very acknowledging of the harm. It was way beyond. And I would say that Ian was a close second, as evidenced by that graphic we saw in which he's the only B, right? I think that not only should someone be rewarded for a very rare thing, which is to, in my book, demonstrate...
Which I don't even disagree with, but like you can't discount... Because if Ethan said all of that when he said it, and then the next day he came out, he was like, just kidding. Just kidding. I was joking about that video. Like, would it still be an A+ apology? That's my question to Kurt. You know what I mean? Would that still make it an A+ apology? If he took it back like the next day? If that's the case, then sure. You know? Okay. Who am I to say how you can or cannot rate your apologies as a content creator? You know what I mean? It's subjective. It doesn't matter. Kirk is not like the end all be all of like what an apology is good or bad. You know what I mean? But like, I think if he's only ranking an apology based upon the words that were said, essentially, and not like the follow up at all, then I'm like, okay, that's fine. Apology in isolation doesn't mean shit. It doesn't matter if that's his criteria. That's his criteria. I can disagree with it. We can disagree with it. But if he's consistent on that criteria, I don't, there's only so much I can say to be like, that's stupid or whatever, right? Like that's my take.
Very strongly, a lot of them core components of an effective apology. But also, I think that Ethan, as other content providers, like Ian himself, are almost never given positive feedback. And so anyone saying something positive, I would imagine, would be emotionally very important to him.
You fucking don't. Is my perfect apology in this PowerPoint? Dude, I got a perfect 10 out of 10.
This one is actually best apology, so.
Ethan Klein, you guys, oh my God.
Okay, so if you don't know, he reached out to me to participate in the Steamies from, was it last year or 2 years ago? I can't remember. And they wanted me to submit an award granting to him in the style of the Steamies. And so I gave them a couple options of videos and they showed it. And so that's what's happening here.
Psychology in Seattle would not be giving this a good rating. In fact, I look forward to him rating it. Probably get pretty low marks.
And yeah, I didn't react to that apology video. I probably just didn't have the time.
And I think that it's more than appropriate for Dr. Kirk Honda to fucking adjust his apology rating, because that's horseshit. So Kirk.
Also, this wasn't in the content cop, was it? Am I the only person who thinks that the clip that he's reacting to here is just like it's like cut footage? This is like a rough draft. This is like beta footage. Okay.
This is your opportunity. Ethan has been flaunting this A.
So
everywhere.
he sent this to Kirk to be like, now I want you to rethink your apology. And he decided not to do it. He was like, well, time to reshoot the entire thing.
Where?
So I almost am glad that it happened.
Psychology in Seattle. Shout
Yes,
out.
I'm just kidding. If you get an A+ apology, it's almost better. I'm glad I said what I said.
Now, I suppose some people would accuse me of kowtowing to Ethan because I'm getting free publicity every time he talks about it, and if I were to rescind that, I would lose that opportunity. That has not occurred to me. Maybe it's in the back.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case either. I think Kirk is just he has a bit or he has a lane that he's fallen into, rating apologies, and he's decided in the criteria that he's decided in the criteria of his apologies that he's rating that like he's only looking at the apology video itself, and that's it. I think it's genuinely that. Right? I think it's genuinely that. He genuinely just doesn't care about whatever happens in the past or in the future. He's like, I'm only rating based upon what he says in his apology. Right? Again, I can disagree with it, but like I think he's genuine in that. I think he thought that Ethan's apology was a good apology in a vacuum. We just disagree that apologies should be rated in a vacuum.
Back of my mind, that's possible. But I learned a long time ago that that kind of publicity, and even the publicity that I'm getting from being an iDubbbz content cop video, doesn't really translate into followership or money for me. I learned that a long time ago because when you cast a really wide net, you get a lot of different sorts of people, and very few of them would be interested in my kind of content.
And in a way, if you want to be like silver lining, it's kind of good that it happened.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, but
Give this guy a fucking taste. Now, we're getting out of apology territory, but I need to just get some shit out to sweeten the deal for you, Kirk. He used to be the hero.
Okay, so I think this is the portion of the video that is just for me, that's not intended to be in the content cop video. And keep in mind that at this point, Ian is hoping and planning on me changing the grade.
I see you out there, you fucking cockroach.
So now that my presentation is over, I'm going to pass this over to
I think
Dr.
the
Kirk
problem
Honda
is
to
that
give us
he hasn't yet explained why he doesn't want to change the apology grade outside of us surmising that he wants to just grade an apology based upon the apology itself, right? He hasn't said because he genuinely thinks that Ethan has actually changed. I think he does it a bit. I'm telling you based upon what we've seen so far, that he has not yet described this, right? He thinks that Ethan does actually change. He does not describe that like it's because this doesn't invalidate his apology. But that's what I'm curious about.
professional opinion, and maybe if we're lucky, there might be some amendment to Ethan Klein's, perfect apology. Because I don't think this is a perfect apology.
Every time Cutie gets an opportunity to shit on me, she takes it without a batting or
I don't know if that's what is Cutie. I don't think this is Ludwig. They're separate people.
Right. Is it a perfect apology? I don't know if I've used that word. Maybe I have, but that doesn't feel like what I was saying or want to say. I just want to put out there that his apology had all the components that I'm looking for in a public apology and more. So that's an A+. That's all it means. Now, I don't know if you're catching this context, but this is a pretty good zinger to have at the end of this video that's meant for me, that he is later after the apology to the person that he transgressed upon, Ethan is saying questionable, problematic things that his producer is pushing back on, which is what he often is having to do for Ethan. No, you're interpreting that wrong. And I'll tell you that in a way, I can very much relate to this. I've talked about this before, that I'll get an email or a comment or someone will talk about me online, and it'll initially get me very hurt and afraid, and then I get very angry, and I go to Stacy to either I know I should check in with her or I'm just venting, and 9 times out of 10, she'll say, I saw that email too, and I don't think you're interpreting it right. I don't think that's what they were saying. Or I saw that comment, and I think you need to reread that comment. And at first, I'm like, how dare you invalidate me or something. I don't say that, but that's how it feels at first. But again, 9 times out of 10 from there, I find that she's absolutely correct, that I was overreacting. Or just I'll get a text from a friend and I'll overreact and I'll ask her, or I'll vent and she'll be like, I don't think you're getting that right. Or she'll listen really well, as she always does, and I'll calm down, and then I'll realize I probably should question my initial assumption, which happens sometimes. And so there's that function. The difference is I'm not doing it while I'm being recorded. Ethan does it while he's being recorded. People react to that. I mean, if people saw me in that state, there would be a lot of justifiable, especially if I'm publishing it, you know what I mean? Putting it out there, and I don't rescind it right away, which doesn't usually happen anyway. In my person, when I'm venting and stuff, I don't immediately say to Stacey, oh, you're right, I was wrong. Sometimes it takes me a while, The difference is that Ethan does it on the air. which is hurtful to those that he's talking about, then they attack him back, and it just creates that feedback loop. That's another element here.
People say Cutie defends me on her podcast with Maya. Well, I've seen lots of clips of her shitting on me, but I guess maybe that was all I saw.
So he is initially being hurtful and assuming bad things about the person that he transgressed on, and then the producer's like, no, she's actually on your side. And that's supposed to, from Ian's point of view, influence me to take the grade back. But this is further confirmation of in this little snippet. And we'll rewind this, actually, because I think this is important. It demonstrates that for Ethan, this is him after that progression that I talked about a while back, where he gets hurt and afraid, very hurt, very afraid. He initially has some slightly problematic takes and clapbacks, if you will. And he does it off the cuff, and he's absorbing all of the negativity without any filter, seemingly. Then people fight back, right? And then more people fight back in unfair ways to him, right? Because he's already being somewhat unfair. He gets more paranoid, more afraid, more hurt.
So it sounds to me like he didn't change the grade or for the apology, not to like stay in Ethan's good graces, but instead to like sate Ethan's ego a little bit, because Kurt thinks that Ethan needs someone to be nice to him. That's kind of what I'm getting from this section, at least. Right? Is that he thinks it's more useful for Ethan, instead of like, dogpiling, allowing him to, keep his grade, to maybe not let him go off on the deep end. Right? Yeah, it is a little bit coddling. Right? Charitability? No, I think it goes deeper than charitability. Right? I hate the way that charitability is just kind of thrown around and just be like, let people do shitty things. This is further than just charitability, right? This is him acknowledging that Ethan is lashing out unfairly at the person that he has transgressed upon, that he has hurt, and he's getting leeway for it because Kurt thinks that it's better to like satiate Ethan Klein's bloodlust instead of egging him on and, piling on against him. You know what I mean? I really interpreted it as his apology ratings are definitely in a vacuum, but that's not what he's talking about here. Right? Yeah, I let him
gets
continue.
more upset. He spontaneous, and so down the line, as he comes across that one, I think, tweet or something by one of Ian's former associates, he gets paranoid that, Ian and Issa are against me, right? That's not his typical stance. It's not his typical interpretation of that. It's after months and months of his mental state being harmed by himself. He's doing this to him. I mean, people are doing it to him, but he's doing nothing to prevent it, right? And maybe even he knows it's happening. I don't know. Maybe he knows, like, this is good for ratings. You always have to come up with something to say. And I really feel bad for content providers like Ethan who don't have something like me, where I have a professional training aspect that I can always talk about, right? I can provide that, only a small percentage of an audience like what he has are interested in, but enough of an audience, I can share that information. Whereas if you're just a guy who people think is kind of funny and interesting, how do you come up with something to say? How do you come up with content?
This is kind of funny though. He's basically like, Ethan Klein is meaningless and worthless to the space. That's what he's saying, chat. Clip it and ship it.
You wake up in the morning and say, what do I have to offer? And so you end up just falling into this pattern of, well, what people are interested in is just me flying off the handle, So I think that might be another element. That doesn't release him from responsibility, of course, but I think it's another piece of the context. So let's rewatch this and keep in mind that there's a possibility, I don't know, it's just total speculation on my part, that his mental state has been affected in a way that any of us would be affected by if all of that negativity and hatred.
Talking about how this post-apology stuff doesn't impact his grade, but it does impact how he's viewing Ethan's progression overall. Separate issues, but they're not separate issues. They're the same issue though. Like, cause that's what iDubbbz is asking him for, is asking him to change his grade rating, right? If he said, I'm not changing my rating because, I don't take into account post-apology stuff, then I would agree with you, but he hasn't said that. Right? Which, again, maybe he gets to, I don't know, but he's not yet demonstrated his reasoning as to why he doesn't take into account things post-apology into the grade. Right? We are surmising and we're projecting onto him. Right? He did in the content cop video. No, not really. We said it in the content cop video. Not really. I mean, we can watch it again. He just says he doesn't do it. He did? No, he just says he doesn't do it. He just says, like, he's not going to change the grade. Right? Not his reasoning why.
I don't think that.
What is he saying?
All right, I don't care about this one. I don't care about this one.
I'm not gonna do a react content yet.
I was trying really hard to think about an impactful moment during this video, like psychologist Dr. Kirk Honda of Psychology in Seattle, and Ethan got an A+ rating.
In terms of a public apology, this is A+.
Ethan won't stop talking about his A+ rating.
You know, he rated my apology to Cutie Cinderella a perfect score, a perfect 10.
A perfect 10 out of 10?
Literally 10 out of 10. Go back. I can teach you how to make a good apology. I'm
Right,
best
10 out of 10.
I know what a perfect apology is, lady. You fucking don't. Is my perfect apology in this PowerPoint? Dude, I got a perfect 10 out of 10.
This one is actually best apology, so.
Ethan Klein, you guys, oh my god.
I was trying really hard to think about an impactful moment during this video, like could I do something that would really wake Ethan up? And I don't know if this came from a good place or not, but I came up with the idea of getting Ethan's grade changed from an A to a B at least. So I went to visit Psychology in Seattle. I'm not confident that
Also, okay, I want to point out
but I came up with the idea of getting Ethan's grade changed from
that, like, this is like the beta footage for the content cop. So Ian recorded the entire thing in his cop outfit, and then he had to re-record it once this didn't pan out. He just decided to do it in a regular outfit, which I think is honestly like a better choice a little bit.
an A to a B at least. So I went to visit Psychology in Seattle. I'm not confident that Kirk will change his grade, but it's worth trying, and you know, we might learn a thing or two.
Xander! Probably get pretty low marks. Unlike me, perfect score 10. I said, hey, let no wig drama. Why are you such a spineless, cowardly person now that you've inserted yourself and your girlfriend into this conversation?
Okay, iDubbbz, I hear you. You're in the room with me right now. I hear you. I hear your request. I understand it. I can understand where it's coming from. And I guess have a policy that when there is a grade for an apology, I am just grading that discrete apology as I see it without taking any consideration of prior or future behavior. If you're wanting me to comment on the overall behavior or the recent behavior from the clips that you have shown me, I believe that Ethan is a good person and that eventually...
I guess he said he has a policy for only addressing the apology itself.
That you've inserted yourself and your girlfriend
But I
into
guess the problem is, listen, chat, the problem is, my issue is that he doesn't explain why, right? That's kind of the issue with what we're getting into, is why he considers just that, like just the apology video itself useful or relevant, instead of like the entire situation around the apology, right? Like, because we think that like the changing aspect of, like, you know, somebody changing their behavior is important for the apology to be genuine and valid. And why does he not think that that's important in general? I mean, it's not like he can see the future. Yeah, but like Ian is asking him to reevaluate in the moment. Right? That's like he's being directly asked to confront that policy that he has. And his answer is kind of just like, it's against my policy to do that. You know what I mean? Like, no one's asking him to see the future, but like if Ethan, is what I said, if Ethan, after he made this apology video, was like, haha, just kidding, this is stupid. Right? Would Kirk then reevaluate the apology, or would he be like, nope, still 10 out of 10. Still A+. Still A+, nothing better could be done. You know what I mean? Maybe he's explain more in his video. Maybe, which is what we were watching.
Hatred and attacking, and a lot of it unfair, because we don't see all of the horribleness that, even if you pay attention, you don't see all the horribleness that he might be absorbing. And then he gets this little hint that maybe, I think her name's QT, the woman that was crying about the deepfake porn, and he was laughing, and then he apologized later. And he gets a little glimpse, and then he's so paranoid. He's such a quick, you know, he's got a real itchy trigger finger, goes after the producer. No. And then you can kind of see the gears turning in his mind. It's like, not only is this assumption not true, but the producer's saying, no, she's on your side, she's supporting you. And that in-group, out-grouping is happening. It's like, oh, she's out-group, wait, so she's in-group? And, you know, you can see his brain trying to adjust that.
Every time Cutie gets an opportunity to shit on me, she takes it without a batting or
I don't know if that's, what is Cutie? I don't think this is Ludwig. They're separate people.
Oh, people say Cutie defends me on her podcast with Maya? Oh, I've seen
and maybe this is an issue with like the way Ian set his video up, in that I don't know if during like the 3-hour long conversation, Kirk gave this take, right? Because if he did give this take, I think it would have been useful to have this take in the video. But I don't know. Again, none of it would have mattered because Ethan would not have been receptive to it at all, you know?
Clips of her shitting on me, but I guess maybe that was all I saw and not the whole thing.
So that's the end of that video, but I don't know if you see what I'm seeing, but that's what I'm seeing, the way I described it earlier.
Anissa and I have experienced like the same kind of level of harassment. Makes me feel like qualified to talk to him about it because
So I don't know if you noticed that, but he was on the verge of crying in that moment, or it looked that way to me. So just keep that in mind as we move forward here. But yeah, I think this could help to give Ian credibility in his content cop video, that he was at first not wanting to make a content cop video. He wanted to reach out to Ethan and explain and to make up, right? To have their work friendship, so to speak, reconciled at the very least, and maybe even to result in Ethan publicly rescinding some of the things that he was saying about Ian and Anissa. Not just because Ian and Anissa care, and you know, if you have a friend, even if it's kind of like a work friend, you don't want them to think wrong things about you. That
also, I hear this, like I get the vibe that he does a video based on current events and then is done with it. But I still don't understand why he doesn't change his grade. Like I get making a video on current events and you're like, okay, that I'm done with talking about that. Let's move on, right? But I don't understand the policy of only taking into account the video itself, because then he wouldn't be done with it. But like he did the conversation in the first place. If he wanted to be done with it, he shouldn't have had the conversation with Ian in the first place. So he doesn't want to be done with it, right? Because he had the conversation. Because then he would have to do it for everyone. No, he wouldn't. Because nobody else is asking him to do it. No one's asking him to change his Liver King apology. You know what I mean? But they could ask him to, and you say no. Like, I don't understand having the converse. And again, this comes down to like what he said, in that he thought that he had a smaller part of the video than he actually did have. Right? And he did say no, but that's stupid. He should have changed his he should have changed this singular like my point is that I don't think that I don't understand where this policy of like, I'm not changing my grade on like the sanctity of my apology video reaction thing, right, is coming from. It doesn't make sense to me. Because I view an apology as more than just the words you say. You know what I mean? Okay, they are his videos, but I don't understand. Okay, but that doesn't mean that we can't analyze why his videos make, or his policy doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? These are Ethan's live streams, and Ethan talks on the live streams like about harassment or harasses people for like 4 hours a day, right? Doesn't mean we can't analyze what he's saying here and why that's not good or why that's good. You know what I mean?
Results in them hating you, you know, but also because Ethan is talking shit online.
Also, this is incorrect. Try to think of it when you are trying to grade someone's art as a teacher. The art is like something horribly racist. The structure of the art and the technique are used of anatomy of the figure can all technically A+, but the content and the context of the art is still discussing as a teacher. Your job is to grade the technique and not the context. You're wrong. You're incorrect. Let's imagine you have an art class and everybody brings in like such great and amazing art, and then like you grade somebody's art as 10 out of 10, but it comes out that they used AI to create it. Right? You rated it a 10 out of 10. Are you not now entitled to change the grade because they've used AI to create it? The context is important. Wouldn't it be rating their apology, then it'd be rating how shitty someone is after their apology? Not necessarily, because an apology is about like a genuine change, and that's necessary in their apology, right? You can't, like, again, you can't shoot somebody say I'm sorry and then shoot them again, or then laugh at you shooting them, because there's no remorse there. Remorse is essential to an apology, right? An acknowledgement of harm is essential to an apology. The future context is not important to this guy. That's the impasse here, and that's stupid. That's dumb.
You know, they already have enough haters and enough harassment and bullies. They don't, you know, to add to that isn't very happy to think about. So this is him describing it in a more, you know, calm, long manner than he would do in a content video. Or
agree, disagree? No, agree that you're wrong and I'm correct. You must do that, or else we cannot be friends. Confirmed.
Makes me feel
apologizing and growth and actions afterwards are two different categories, in my opinion. I disagree.
Qualified to talk to him about it, because I feel super empathetic.
Because again, at that point, you're just rating the words that they said, right? Did they have the correct structure of their sentences to make you feel like they mean what they say, but they don't actually have to mean what they say? And in my opinion, that's completely irrelevant. You feel me? I don't care if you say the correct words in the correct way. I think that's his method, though. I think that's stupid. And I have a right to say that. Confirmed.
Specifically to to that feeling that everyone is an enemy. I had that feeling very much after my apology. There were loads of people who were...
And I am just so happy.
Especially, and again, we're not talking about this apology assessment in the vacuum, right? Especially when Ethan Klein uses his apology that got an A+ rating in order to like justify his like harassment campaigns. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like Ethan Klein got an A+ apology and then it just, you know, is meaningless to him. Right? He brings it up anytime he addresses any level of harassment, or if talking about his other apologies for different things. Right? He'll say, I know how to apologize. I have an A+ rating or whatever. And so if it was just in a vacuum, if his apology rating was in a vacuum, I would agree that it's meaningless. But the point is that Ethan then takes that and justifies his horrific behavior against Cutie, the person he's apologizing to, right? Because of what Kirk said. It's not Kirk's fault, right? It's not Kirk's responsibility to make sure Ethan is not using his words to like shit on Cutie, the subject of his apology. But that's what he's doing. You feel me? Is it kind of took his apology back? Not necessarily. Right? Because Ethan will still use the Kirk apology. Be like, oh, look, Kirk didn't change his apology. I'm still A+. I'm still the greatest apologizer to ever live. Right? And again, as a joke or whatever, that's one thing. But he then uses it to justify, you know, making jokes about the situation that he apologized for at the beginning. And that's gross. Maybe not anymore after this collab, though. No, he got the video taken down. I can definitely see on his stream today coming out and being like, I talked to Kirk, right? He's on my side. He took the video down, right? We're best friends now. He still has my A+ apology. Because he's basically, him and his fan base has run this person off the internet, essentially. So what you're asking for him is not what he does. He rates statements, not behavior. Dude does not rate an apology a year after to see the behavior. He just rates just after the statement. Yeah, and that's stupid. That's my take. It's dumb. It's dumb. You have a difference in what we call an apology. I am allowed to say that. I'm allowed to say that his definition of an apology is stupid and mine is correct and you're all wrong and I'm right.
I'm sad that Ian had to go through this, but this was part of the change. And this is the part of the change for everybody, me included. When we go through things or someone close to us is going through things, it gives us a better chance to really feel what it's like to go through that thing. Then when someone else is going through that thing, we have a much greater chance of having empathy for that person. And until that happens, it is hard to have empathy for someone else. Not because we lack empathy, but because it is lost on us why someone is having a reaction that they're having. And Ethan, at least from my understanding, isn't crying on his podcast. He's not talking about the pain and the fear and the terror that he's going through. He's exhibiting the anger, and Ian sees that and understands what's beneath it. And initially was reaching out, even though Ethan was publicly saying horrible things and causing a lot of Ethan's fans to go after Ian and Anissa. What Ian initially felt was empathy, because he had been through that himself. And so that resulted in him seeing Ethan in a compassionate light at first. And so he reached out, gave him the benefit of the doubt. Even though Ethan was giving Ian no reason to do that publicly, the assumption was there because of a common humanity that's understood. And so Ian, and I believe him, and Anissa would talk about this too, that he, behind closed doors, meaning not on the air. It wasn't like he tweeted, "Hey, Ethan, let's talk," as a public showing of goodwill. He texted him off air, if you will. And Ethan still refused to talk with him, right? Which was hurtful and was aggravating, right? Then you feel like you have no power, you have no voice. And then so Ian dusted off his content cop outfit and said, well, I do have access to a voice, and I'm going to use it since I have no other recourse here.
And make you feel like, there's no winning.
Well, I remember people reacting to your apology video were saying that you were grifting or something, that it was all a lie, and you were trying to trick the audience so that you could, I don't know what you'd be tricking the audience, because it wasn't necessarily a good career move, you know what I mean?
No. No, it's been actually terrible for me in making money.
We've talked about
it. Gotten worse.
Yeah, but it's easier to sleep at night, I hope.
Yeah.
And you're clawing back,
Yeah.
And then other people are saying Anissa is...
Chat, I do not care. I'm going to be real. The meme has gone on too long. I genuinely do not care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care about his apology rating system. I thought it would be fun to lean into picking a side and sticking to it, but y'all have made it a lot less fun. I don't care. We're moving on. We're moving on. We're talking about something else now, please.
Pussy whipped or whatever.
Please.
And it's just like...
Not that I'm totally pussy whipped, but they're totally saying that I'm pussy whipped.
Yeah. I think it's kind of romantic to be a little pussy whipped now and then, that little mutual heterosexual pussy dick whip, both ways.
Did we win?
Pussy dick whip.
No, you're still wrong. So I'm still correct. But yeah.
Reciprocation or mutual whipping became a theme throughout our 3-hour conversation and after. So I guess that's where it started.
I feel it myself. It's so hard for me on my podcast to loosen up. It's incredibly hard. And to also then make jokes and be funny. I talked about it in my apology. I am so insecure about my ability to entertain. I think he feels the same, to be honest. I don't think he said as much. But I feel to me, it's pretty obvious.
Skip ahead.
By how often he says crazy fucked up shit.
I do have the no backseating tag on my stream, don't I?
Also looks to his producers and employees to be was that a bad thing? Should I button that? Or no one's laughing. What, is that funny or not funny?
So we're towards the ending of our 3-hour conversation. And
it's one of my least favorite chatters. People who just come in here and just try to tell me what to do. Right? If you wanted to say, hey, I don't think anything here is particularly relevant, you can go to this timestamp or whatever, I'd be like, okay, maybe I'll think about that. Right? Skip ahead. Who do you think you are?
Point, I've heard a lot of the background, and we've had a lot of back and forth. Anissa has also been a big part of the conversation. And as he was approaching his thesis or stating his thesis that he would eventually have in his content cop video, or at least an earlier version of it, I was both curious about what his conceptualization is as to why Ethan would refuse to change or not be self-reflective or to not exhibit empathy. I was curious about that, but I also was asking a question that I often will ask my students, actually, in that they'll talk about a client and they'll say, oh, this client, or maybe more commonly, I'll have a student or a trainee or a supervisee or a consultee who will be talking about a client's partner, right? So my student is saying, yeah, so I have this client and she's talking about her husband and about how much of a jerk face her husband is. And if it seems appropriate to ask or helpful to ask, I might ask a very similar question. Instead of just rolling past that the way we typically do, where we're just like, oh, that guy must be a jerk face, I ask my therapist, and it's their job to think about this, whether they have an answer for it or not, but it's incredibly important to have a conceptualization. So I'll ask a conceptualization question. Why do you think the husband does that? You don't have the husband as a client, but hearing through your client, the husband's behavior, what is your initial or what is your hypothesis as to why that would happen? Because if we just go with the typical human or societal response, then it's just writing the guy off as a jerk face, as evil or something. Instead of doing the work, and it's hard. And without training, it's almost impossible. Lay people aren't trained in this way. Most therapists are barely trained in this way. I would have to do a lot of work with students by the time they got to me, not to denigrate other professors, but there's just not enough time in graduate school, honestly. And so I asked him that question, like, okay, so you've laid out a very strong argument that Ethan has changed and that he is being more of a jerk face now than he was before, and more toxic, and there doesn't seem to be any guardrails. And you've laid out some of the details about that, the button, the yes men, the absorbing the snark subreddit, that kind of stuff. Why would he do that? What do you think the reason is? And so what that provoked in Ian, because he takes that question to heart, I'll give him credit for that for sure, is to find a pathway. And often a pathway is through looking to yourself as a pathway to empathy, right? So he, as we just saw, Ian's like, well, I can kind of relate because I've been there and I know what can happen to you and that insecurity. And I just wanted to point that out as an element of something. I didn't notice it at the time because I'm not conscious necessarily of that. Again, I'm actually curious as to what he would say. But I'm also always trying to promote the notion, even in my casual conversations, that there's a question there. We might not know the answer, but most people have a logical reason as to why they would be hurtful or harmful.
And I think that's fine, right? I think that's fine. I think that's chill. But like, I don't think it always matters, is my point, right? We were talking about like the victims of, like, it's not the job of the victims of somebody's behavior to analyze where that behavior stems from, right? It's the job of somebody, right? This is why we have mental health services in this country. It's somebody's job to get down to the root of where that stems from, where that comes from, that so it can be addressed. But it's not the job of the victim in order to like internalize that behavior. You know what I mean? The video did not get put back up. This video is re-upload. Video got still down, what I understand.
Or even abusive. It doesn't justify it at all, but it explains it and gives us something.
The job of victim, but mental health professionals, yes, the people who need the change. You just repeated what I said. You just said you're not understanding, and then you just repeated exactly what I said back in the chat. Like, this is literally what I just said. Like, you're explaining what I said again, and then pretending like I didn't say it. Talking to a chatter, arguing with chat. Key rewind 57 seconds. I was walking my goldfish. Yes.
If we can change the factors that lead to the problematic behavior,
just put louder. It was not just put louder.
Behavior.
And he's oftentimes like very concerned with that. Like, he's looking for the feedback. I think it would probably be good for him to do stand-up or something, an open mic, to actually get an idea or get more in touch with what.
Yes, that would be funny. Please, Ethan, do an open mic session. I think that would be hilarious. I think that would be hilarious.
What makes him funny, because that's something that I like. That's going to be probably a constant journey for me, is figuring out what makes me funny, or what people like.
Listen, about the victim, he just said he's approaching it from a therapist approaches and treating the bad guy. I'm giving you my perspective about his take in general, right? But I'm not discounting the fact that Kirk is saying is from a psychological or therapeutic perspective, but I'm just adding extra context to saying that, like, sure, but don't think that this applies, because this is the problem is that, like, we're sitting here and acting like, yo, hey, Kirk is saying this is only for therapy speak, or only for therapists and psychologists, but like, people pretend like this applies to like the marginalized people who are the victims of the behavior anyway. I wouldn't say this, right? I wouldn't say this to like, if this wasn't the case. People are talking about this with like Dean or whatever, or like with other what's it called? Like people who have or do things that are harmful, right? To marginalized people. They're like, oh, well, you know, you have to be charitable and let them grow and change their mind. It always comes from somewhere. as a way to kind of discount the experience of those marginalized people, because that does happen, right? Which is why I don't think that the victims of that behavior, it's their responsibility or their job in order to make that distinction. Like, it's not for me to care about why a white supremacist is necessarily or not my job. I don't expect a regular black person to care about why a Kleiners member is putting on the hood, right? Somebody else can do that internal work, right? Somebody else can dive into like how they've learned their bigotry and where that has come from, but that doesn't necessarily change the fact that it's, you know, that it's like it is still harmful to marginalized people, you know?
Like about me or my content. So I just want that for him.
Okay. Did you just touch on something inside of you right now?
Yeah, I think
what
so.
was that?
Oh, yeah, I've just seen. It's frustrating because
Yeah, it brings a tear to my eye. You sense the pain, right? You feel the anguish. It's deep. This is deep. You know, I noticed a couple times, including that time, that he was tearing up as he would, I think, recall what he had been through himself, which has a lot of complicated feelings. The hurt of the harassment, the deep shame that I know that he feels. I was really surprised that he included a bit of this in the epilogue of his video. And it really makes me wonder, if I wasn't involved, how the video would have ended. Because I actually asked him if I don't know if I've mentioned this already, but I asked him if I hadn't responded the way that I had, how would the video have ended differently? And he said, oh, absolutely. In fact, what did he say here? And again, he's cool with me saying all this stuff. I've asked him. I was texting him saying, I had no idea how important I was to the ending of your content cop video. If I had known, I would have been more careful in the way that I refused to change my grade. And then Ian replied and said, you play a really important role in the video. It made me rethink the whole ending, to be honest. And it led to me deciding to get those creators to send me nice comments. So I feel good about that because I like the way it ended, absolutely. But I feel bad about inconveniencing a fellow content provider in that way. So anyway, I also want to provide this for the main reason why I want to make, or one of the main reasons why I want to make this video is that I would imagine that, especially in the past, you would not imagine, if you did watch iDubbbz videos or even knew of him and maybe even disliked him, you would not necessarily know or think or imagine that he would be a normal human being with vulnerabilities. You know, one of the big reasons why I want to make this video is to demonstrate for audience members and for content providers that a thick skin is a myth. No one has a thick skin. You can't protect yourself. What difference does it make if you're a content provider or not? You're a human being, and you cannot protect yourself. No one can, from harassment and bullying and hatred. And we also understand that you can get 10 comments, 9 of which are positive, but 1 that's negative, and everyone focuses on that one negative thing. Everyone understands that. Content providers understand that every day of their lives. And unless there's a management system that involves not reading every single comment, that involves therapy and perspective and telling the audience, one of the best things that I ever did over time, because it sort of had a crescendo during the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial 3 years ago, I couldn't help myself but to tell people like how it was affecting me, the hatred that was coming my way. By telling my audience that, even people that didn't like me, I think it gave a lot of people the opportunity to understand and therefore have empathy and therefore take care, right?
I've really tried hard to like control what I've been putting out online and like what I'm going to react to and you know, think about other people. And it was like, you know, at minimum like a full year of me like really questioning like everything I was putting out. And you know, I had some confidence at the start of that, but like every video I put out, I'd be like, oh shit, like the views aren't good, the comments aren't good, like I don't know, like it just kept getting worse and worse. And so now that I feel like it wasn't overnight, like me gaining my confidence back, and I'm still probably not all the way there, but like,
does he deserve to feel some amount of concern or pain, or does he deserve some consequence for the bigotry that he put out there? You can answer the question how you want to, but I would answer that question, yes. It is fair that he experience some level of consequence.
Thank you, litigator. I appreciate you saying that my glasses are badass.
and that consequence could cause him some level of pain and insecurity. And as he acknowledges it and apologizes for it, he also deserves love and an opportunity for redemption and care and acceptance of the new him. Both of those things can happen at the same time. People that are fans of iDubbbz, even when he apologized, would say, you don't have to apologize, don't do that to yourself. Haters
This is true.
of him would say, oh, he's just faking it. Or in this moment, they might say, well, you deserve it, motherfucker, whatever. Both are true, and both have to be true if we're going to make the world a better place. If people are going to be invited to change and welcomed to change and attracted to change, then we have to have the approach of both. There are consequences and there is a path to redemption. And if you...
True. I do agree with this 100%. Right. And it's something that people don't mention a lot, even on the left. They skip over the consequence part, right? This is something that I see all the time when people take Hassan's words about like to be charitable to people and they run with it to like the insane lengths that they do, where they completely skip over the fact that there are consequences for doing and saying the things that they do and say, right? And having an acknowledgement of those consequences while allowing people a path to redemption so they choose, right? But there are still consequences. You are going to have to eat that people will not forgive you. You're going to have to eat that people will think you're faking it. You're going to have to eat that people are going to like not appreciate what you're saying, what you're doing, but you're going to have to do it regardless. That's a part of an apology. That's a part of genuinely changing and growing from the person you were before. People will not forgive you. People will not accept your apology, right? But going from that to being a better person requires you to eat a little bit of consequences. You may lose your audience. You may, upset some people.
You take
This is a good video from Kirk.
We have to have the approach of both. There are consequences and there is a path to redemption. And if you take that path, we will absolutely be there for you.
I feel like I have a much clearer idea because I didn't take like an easy route, or I didn't like fight back, or when I say easy route, I basically mean to say that I didn't go for the drama or the things that I know would get like views or attention, because I am familiar with it, but I know that it's just going to lead me to the same kind of place.
Which was what?
Which is being unhappy and regretful.
Yeah, regretting what?
Hurting people, just making like content that like didn't align with like my beliefs or principles.
So there it is, right? People can do bad things, very problematic things, hurtful things, post it on the internet and do it over the span of months and years and still be a good person. And how can that be? It happens all the time. Ethan, I assume the same thing is happening, but on a much larger scale or a current scale or a worse version of it because of the factors that we've been talking about, the landscape of his family, CPS, the way that Ethan makes content, the way that he absorbs comments and subreddits and stuff. The button, as Ian has been pointing out, it can be even worse. And if we have consequences and we criticize, but welcome and invite and tell them there is a way out, there's an escape, and I believe in you, then we see change. So I don't need to say this.
But they're going to have to want that, right? You can't give somebody an off-ramp, but then they flip that off-ramp around and turn it into like a, like a half pipe or whatever. They start dunking on us with. You know what I mean? Like there needs to be some push and pull there. iDubbbz was only allowed to change and grow because he decided in his mind he's going to be different. And then the off-ramp was provided. Right? iDubbbz has climbed himself up a giant tower, and then he looked down, he realized how high up he was, and he's like, I want to get down. And then we're like, all right, someone go get the off-ramp. We go get the off-ramp, and we offer him a way down. Right? But you can't see somebody climbing up a tower, and we're like, go get the off-ramp. We go get the off-ramp, and then they use the off-ramp to jump up higher or whatever. You know what I mean? Use the off-ramp as a jumping off point to go further. Because they have not decided that they're ready to come down yet. You know what I mean? They're using the off-ramp as an on-ramp. They have to make the decision that they want to change first. They have to make the decision that they want to grow first so that when we are reciprocal to that, so when we accept that, we can slowly help them down from the ledge that they're on. Right? But if they're not ready to grow and change, they might see us approach them and see that as like, oh, we're trying to push them off. You know what I mean?
But I hope that this helps to provide some understanding.
And that's the difference between Ian and Ethan. Ethan has not ever demonstrated that he was ready to come down yet. Right? He just kind of like walked on a tightrope to a different building. And we're surprised when he's still high up there.
Through content providers, even other sorts of public figures, actors, politicians even, so that you know what it can feel like and how rare it is that they will display these feelings. And if they do, even...
And I feel like this guy was kind of pushing the blame on you guys. Hassan gave him charitability to stop for months suggesting y'all say something nice to him. It's kind of some kindergarten shit. I disagree. Right? Because it was a perfect way to demonstrate to like normal people who don't really know the situation how cooked Ethan is. Right? Like Ethan seeing the nice things people said about him and immediately being like, fuck you, I hate you so much, to like normal people who don't know much about the situation, just like, all right, that's a bit strange. That's a kind of an extreme reaction to people saying nice things to him. You know what I mean?
Even allude to them just how much hatred that they get or dismissal that they will get.
You know, I also see the dynamic of Ethan and Neela. I'm like, fuck, like, it's just really, it's really hard.
Like, see this moment where Ian is crying and being like, huh, I don't know about you and your relationship. Maybe you're going to get divorced soon, but like me and my wife love each other. So we don't cry about defending each other or whatever. Like, that does not make him look good. It makes him look like a crazy person. He's looking like a bad person.
A couple online and see people attacking your partner, and it's like, okay, like if you come to their defense, that doesn't always help them, right? Sometimes that makes it worse for them. So I'm seeing Ethan go through a lot of that, Ethan and Neela. And yeah, I really relate heavily to the harassment that they're getting, and I see them kind of like, you know,
I didn't say he
Fran.
looked crazy for crying, chatter. I'm saying that Ethan looks crazy for shitting on Ian for crying when he's being vulnerable.
Lean more into money, get a lot more like flippant and a lot more like aggressive toward people, and I'm just like, fuck, that is...
So a major reason as to why he made the content cop video, I think, was because he's trying to help in his way. I don't know if it will help. One could argue if it was really trying to help, it would have been less negative, so to speak, towards Ethan. But then one could argue maybe you have to be that pointed in your critique for it to break through and to get any sort of views and attention, that kind of... I don't know. But I think it's convincing that he cares about the two of them, Ethan and Neela.
Not ultimately going to like solve it for you.
You can see, so that's that Y in the road.
Yeah.
You took the healing, touching grass, or touching marriage route away from the internet toward stability and attachment and love, whereas he's taking the other path, which is to go on the offense and to maybe convince himself that he's right and everyone else is wrong, and he doesn't care. You know, you can imagine having that defensive, just I don't give a shit what everyone, when you absolutely do care what people think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you allowed yourself to feel that feeling.
Yeah.
Now and back then. But you could see how you could harden.
Yeah.
Toughen up.
Totally. It's been very tempting, you know? Yeah. Like if I had the button like he has, I fucking hit it all the time.
Yeah. So I think that's all that we'll watch. It ends pretty quickly after this, but I think that's a good representation of the overall conversation that we had for over 3 hours. So for those of you who never watched the content cop video, I thought we would watch a bit of it towards the end, in case you have been wondering this whole time what I've been referring to.
Okay, iDubbbz, I hear you. You're in the room with me right now. I hear you. I hear your request. I understand it. I can understand where it's coming from. And I guess have a policy that when there is a grade for an apology, I am just grading that discrete apology as I see it without taking any consideration of prior or future behavior. If you're wanting me to comment on the overall behavior or the recent behavior from the clips that you have shown me, I believe that Ethan is a good person and that eventually he will feel sorrow and will feel sorry and will apologize, and I will be there to evaluate that apology when it happens, which I know it will.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Unfortunately, Kirk did not change his grade.
I guess another thing to say is I'm glad that I didn't know that I was going to be so heavily featured at the end of his content cop video, because I knew that if he released another content cop video that it would get a lot of attention. As of right now, it's 2 days after it published. An airplane is going overhead, I don't know if you get, and the video has over 5 million views and counting. So if I knew that, I think I would have been too terrified to even get 2 words out while we were talking. So I guess it's a blessing in disguise. But anyway, when I watched this video yesterday, I was like, oh, sorry. I mean, I stand by that, but sorry. So that's genuine. This reaction here, he's just like, so he refused to change. And I heard from him that, yeah, I had to rewrite the ending because of that. Sorry.
But that's okay, because this is the internet. Anyone can have their own official apology rating system. So I'm going to rate Ethan's apology a B-. That's just based on my own feelings and my own rubric. When Psychology in Seattle was watching these video clips of Ethan, he said that it looks like Ethan could just use a hug. Now, of course, it kind of pisses me off to hear that shit, because I'm like, what are we doing? What are we saying? He needs a hug? No, he doesn't need a hug. He needs a good fucking ass whooping is what he needs. I think something that's very important to me in bringing back Content Cop is to be fair. I think that was something that was not illustrated in previous Content Cops that I think should have been, and probably wouldn't have left me with so much regret. Ethan deserves all of the criticism that he's getting. I think it's very valid. But I also think, at the end of the day, we should acknowledge that he's human, because he is human. And he is in a situation that's making him extremely scared, paranoid, defensive, sensitive, and I'm sure other features and feelings. In the spirit of Kirk...
I love this. I love it. I love it. The video is still very pointed and very critical. But to have, I'm having chills, to have this epilogue or this ending or the climax of the video, to have it have this tone while still staying true to his voice. It's a new voice-ish, but it's still
honestly,
him. It's authentic,
I think
real.
the Kleinsmen were just mad that it wasn't like unilaterally like Ian is bad. Because it's not even like a pro-Ian video. It's not an anti-Ethan video. It's just not an anti like Ian video. And so they're just like, this video is bad. How dare you? And then they bullied him into taking it down. Is it an Ethan get help video? Not even. It's not even like an intervention or Ethan get help video. It's just a, hey, this is my perspective of how I view what's going on here. Ian, the friend trying to reach out to Ethan. Ethan's not being very receptive to it. And that's kind of sad. Check my logs now.
It's just music to my ears, and could be the dawn of a new age on YouTube. And if there's something that is going to get across, it's going to be convincing and inviting and welcoming while still being critical and still having consequences for Ethan, this is the approach in my opinion. We'll see what happens.
Sensitive, and I'm sure other features and feelings. In the spirit of Kirk saying that it looks like Ethan could just use a hug, I have challenged some of his most powerful haters to put down the haterade and just say something nice and charitable about him, because I think he deserves it.
I just wanted to say that I respect that you are genuinely yourself on the internet. I think a lot of other people respect you for as well. I think that's a big reason why people were drawn to your content in the first place. I think that's a lot of the reason why your employees chose to work with you over anyone else.
Ethan, I think it's respectable that you began this journey to leave behind the SJW crowd and step into a more empathetic worldview. I know it's not easy.
Ethan Klein, I think that when you are being goofy, when you're being silly, when you are being lighthearted, and just having fun with your friends, I think that is when you're at your best. So I'd love to see more. I
even feel guilty for causing Ian to reach out to these other content providers and making them or asking them to say something positive. I don't know. I feel funny about having influence in that way when I didn't know that that would happen. You know what I mean? I don't want to be inconvenient to anybody. So as I said at some point earlier in this video, I said I was going to end the video with someone attacking me because I was involved in the Content Cop video. And I'm not going to show their username or anything, but I wanted to show what's
positive. Like, who is this guy? Honestly, that would be kind of funny. I'll be real. That would be kind of funny.
Love can do. And how if we all participate in that, then we can all make the world a better place. Not only just a happy rainbow unicorn place, but a meaningfully better place for us and our kids and our grandkids in the world. I don't say that lightly. I'm not the one who invented this idea. It's not even originated from our era. This has been around for centuries. So take that. But as an example, I knew that being in the content video would result in me being attacked because I know the internet. I didn't know if it would be Ian's fans or Ethan's fans or people that hate both of them, or I don't know. Or just sometimes I realize that just being noticeable.
You can apologize to me. This is true.
On the internet just attracts people that have issues, disturbed individuals, or people that are deeply, deeply unhappy and use bullying as a way to just get a little inkling of happiness or distraction from their own extremely miserable lives. But anyway, so I'm not going to dox this person or show their username or anything, but this person DM'd me. I received a number of things like this, but he said, stay in your lane and stop internet diagnosing people, hack. One, I'm not a huge fan of people not using punctuation. There should be a comma there. Stop internet diagnosing people, comma, hack. But anyway, so stay in your lane and stop internet diagnosing people, hack. So I was a little confused because in the Content Cop video, there's nothing approximating me diagnosing anyone, right? So I was wondering, is this just a random hater? But it had the feel and it had the immediacy of someone that had watched the video. But regardless, there's various different ways that I'll respond to this. Usually I won't respond at all, but one of the responses that I will have to things like this is just to ask a question. Don't get wordy. Just say, oh, tell me. And so I asked, who did I diagnose? That's all I asked. And given the screenshot that I took, it's actually hard for me to show both sides of the conversation. So you're just going to have to trust me that that's what I said was, so who did I diagnose? Partly as a hope that what happens a lot of times that I find is that when a troll or someone who's hating you online, someone that's being really unreasonable, if you just acknowledge that they exist and show up as a human being, they will immediately soften. Not only because they're not that way in their real life, but also because they're desperate for contact. I have the benefit of growing up as a child as a very large kid. I was gargantuan compared to a lot of my classmates, particularly in the tween years. When I hit puberty early, I was often mistaken for an adult when I was like 12 years old, that kind of thing. Anyway, so I would occasionally get bullied. Sometimes racism would happen. That's a funny way to put it. But I grew up in a primarily, almost completely white community, and I was regularly called, gook and Chinaman and all the things and attacked and violently sometimes. But because I was large, I was never really that afraid, and I could.
I stand with you, Kirk. I stand with Kirk.
And I'll never forget that there was this one bully in junior high that was bullying me in the locker room, actually, after PE. And he was just pestering me with these insults and just, coming after me, and no one else was doing anything. And I was ignoring him at first, and then I would try to fire back, but he was better at it than I was, I think. And then eventually I just kind of lost my temper, and I just grabbed him by the collar and lifted him up and slammed him against the lockers. And he immediately apologized and was nice to me almost forever after that, I think. And he was always a bit of a dick.
I will say, I do agree with chat. You don't acknowledge the trolls. Right? And I think part of the problem, and this is actually a perfect example because now this video is gone, and now his Instagram was privated, and then it was deleted afterwards, is why you don't acknowledge the trolls. Trolls are gonna troll. Kirk, just turn your DMs off. Right? Just turn them off. You don't engage with these people. You don't need their approval.
All the time. But after that, he was not only just afraid of me, I guess, but I think it was weird that I've since
I don't think he's saying to literally reply to troll DMs. No, but he did though. That is what he's saying, because he did it here. He said, I replied and I said this, and this was the response, which I think he's going to get to at some point. Right? That is kind of his point.
Only no one was acknowledging him because he was an outcast. I had friends. He did not. And in the locker room, it can be particularly noticeable, I think. And he just had an outburst, and he was looking for attention, and he couldn't get it, so he
reached out and
tried to get negative attention. For
some people, like in your real life, like if your bully is like doing something, kill him with kindness may be an option, but like internet trolls is a bad idea. Like this person who said stay in your lane, stop internet diagnosing people, hack. You don't reply to this person, right? Or if you reply to them, you can troll them back if you want to engage at all, but like don't be like genuinely be like, what's going on in your life that made you reply like this? You know what I mean? Like I don't certainly think that that's.
And I gave him that negative attention, and it satisfied him. I acknowledged he was there. I showed him that he mattered in the world, that he has an effect on the world. Sometimes you'll take anything, even if it's negative attention, even if it's literally me throttling him and putting him in a powerless position where I could hurt him very badly, and that feels like it gets some need met because so little of your needs are being met. I don't know, but I'm going to take a guess and say that his home life wasn't great. So when people will attack me online, especially when it's something like this, it has that look to it. That kid, when I was 13, peppering me with insults in the locker room. And so if I just turn to the person and acknowledge, so part of me was doing that by asking a question like, who did I diagnose? And not lowering myself or trying to defend, you're a hack or whatever. The other reason why I asked the question in part was I am curious because I've made thousands of episodes online, and maybe I accidentally or I wasn't clear enough in my discussions that I'm not diagnosing someone from afar. I could see how that could happen at times. I am very careful about that. I've always been careful about that. But sometimes I make a mistake, or maybe it just requires me to clarify, well, actually, that isn't a diagnosis. And if you heard earlier, I was saying it was completely speculative, and I actually wasn't even talking about that cast member on reality TV. I was talking about a hypothetical client or whatever, And so I'll invite, and sometimes that's good feedback for me to receive. It's like, oh, I need to word that differently because someone interpreted it. So I was asking for both those reasons. I mostly expected him to say, well, you're a jerk face. I don't want, if you don't know, then you're even more of a hack. Like, you don't even know what you did, like, something like that. Or just someone not replying. But a lot of the times, what happens is what happened. So let me show you what they said. I acted extremely rash, rude, jumped the gun. I need to take time away from the screen. I apologize. I'm not sure why I felt the need to express any vitriol over internet drama that you seem to be kind of thrown in the middle of. And I misheard.
Like, this happens sometimes, right? When you, like, address a hater or a troll. But, like, is the positives, right? Is the positives from doing this for one person outweighed by the mental and emotional labor you're going to feed into it as a creator?
Heard and interpreted what you said.
You know what I mean?
Or vitriol in general, as it doesn't help anything. I hope you have a good rest of your week. And thing is, after reassessing what you actually said, I felt incredibly stupid and thought you handled the iDubbbz thing well. Not that my opinion matters on that. You are not a hack, and from what I've since read, you do some good stuff. I appreciate you helping people heal. I also just want to say again that my behavior is disappointing and unacceptable. Apologies to you. So not only is this a nice response, a good outcome of me asking that question, but this is like extremely positive, right? It's like, whoa. And this should illuminate things, not only in general, but also for people like Ethan, that the attacks that come are often not the full picture. If you give people a chance and you believe in them and you treat them like you believe in them and you don't participate in the fear and hatred feedback cycle, then goodness can happen not only just in the world, but to me. I did the thing that I talked about by not lowering myself, by believing in someone. You know, I didn't know, but I wondered that if I just acknowledged or if I didn't participate in it, maybe he would. And there's many examples of this. Lindy West, actually, a local Seattleite, did a whole thing on this, through Gamergate 10, 15 years ago, I can't remember, and talked about this, and I think wrote about it a lot. So I'm not the first person to experience this kind of thing where you actually turn to a troll and they're like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I actually am a fan of it or whatever, So by doing this, not only am I putting goodness in the world, but I'm getting goodness back. And isn't that the golden rule, right? It's not just something you hear about in church. It's not just something that your parents tell you when you're 4. What comes around goes around. It's a real fucking phenomenon that has real empirical elements of a causal nature. There's a logical A, B, and C. Anyway, so I replied to him. Again, you can't see it, but it was something along the lines of, thank you. It's very heartwarming to read your response. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes sometimes. No biggie, that kind of thing. That's how I want to end.
Yeah, I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick while he finishes out this segment. And then we're going to get to Ethan's reply to the content cop on a video.
This video. On the off chance that Ethan is watching or someone that's close to him is watching, I do believe in you, Ethan. I believe that you're a good person. I know you're a good person. You've demonstrated that many, many times. And I also, as Ian does as well, empathize with the harm that you have experienced, the real harm that you have been subjected to by people on the internet, by maybe even other content providers, Twitter, this sort of thing. It's unfair. It's not okay. I also will say that there are lifestyles regarding content provision that protects you so that you can live another day to make content. You're not sticking your head in the sand. You're not ignoring the criticism. You're not putting up an ivory tower or something, but you're monitoring how it is affecting your soul. And one of the first very noticeable signs you will see in your behavior, and this is shown in empirical science as well, that as you absorb more toxicity, the first sign or one of the major signs that you're being affected is you will lose empathy. You will lose the ability to care about other people's feelings because you're in a state of shock, essentially, and you don't have the capacity to care. We study this in my field. We call it secondary trauma or burnout or post-traumatic or vicarious trauma. As therapists, we will hear a lot of difficult traumatic stories. One of the things that will happen if we don't monitor it and have systems in place is in our effort to help other people, we will absorb too much of it and we will lose empathy and we won't be able to help any one of our clients because we've lost our empathy. We end up having negative points of view. We get annoyed with people, but also we don't have empathy for ourselves. We don't have empathy for people in our lives. Everything starts to fall apart, and it very much looks that way. And that is unsustainable. There is no way that Ethan can survive if he does not change that. He can hold his principles, he can hold his opinions, his core opinions, he can still fight back. But there has to be touching grass, as I was saying to Ian in that video, there has to be touching relationships grass. There has to be a vacation from it. And there has to be a system to protect you from absorbing too much of the negativity. No one can handle that. Even the great Ethan Klein cannot handle that. No one can. It's at the very least not good for you and your marriage and your health, but it could be bad for the world. It could be bad for your fans. It could be bad for your content. It could be bad for your friends, like what happened to Ian and Nisa. And I'm guessing many, many others around Ethan have also began to suffer because of what's been happening. So that's what I want to say. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. Spread the love, spread the empathy, because we all deserve it. We really, really do.
Ugh. Whew. So that's the video. I don't think it was very offensive. Some black guy. Why is this guy stealing my jazz?
Who thought we were going?
Why is this guy stealing my jazz? Why does it have so many dislikes? It's like he skimmed through Ian's videos, took the main points, and then repeated them without further research or thinking. Ethan didn't start this? Okay. This was a pro Ian video, I assume. Wait, where did Ian post? Ian, where did Ethan post his video at? It's not on his personal channel. Wait, it's on H3. The main channel? That's crazy.
A few days ago, my good friend Ian, also known
That's
as
crazy. Okay. All right, let's see. Let's see. 60 minutes. Hey, look, it's me, chat. I made it. Mom, I made it. Denim's got cut off. LOL.
A few days ago, my good friend Ian, also known as iDubbbz, released a content cop about me. His video's over an hour long and
he looks rough. He looks rough.
Full of a lot of accusations. We watched the entire video.
Also, it wasn't full of any accusations, I didn't think.
Every frame of it, responded to every accusation.
Whoa, every frame of it? Every frame of it? Every frame? Every frame. Every frame. Oh, he's going to be running that live for years, chat. He's going to be running that live for years. 6 months down the line, he's going to be like, I reacted to every single iota, every pixel of the content cop I saw live on stream. Come on, bro. Come on. Come on.
On the podcast and a really long episode. We watched the whole thing. So if you're interested,
the whole thing, the whole thing, you watched the whole thing, really, really. All right, all right, sure, sure.
More thorough response to everything.
Which parts did he skip? The entire thing about the crew, about how he treats the crew horribly.
I live like a capitalist every single day, Shank. I live as a capitalist.
Where is AB, by the way? Chat, do we think we're going to see AB in this next episode?
Subscribed.
Do we think we're going to see AB in this next episode? Okay, skip the button part 2. Oof. El Salvador, probably. I think it's possible.
I would recommend watching this episode. The video that I'm making today, however, I don't need an hour for, because there's really just one central point that I want to make here. My good friend Ian, in his hour-long takedown, did not mention one time Child Protective Services. Not one time. In the entire video, he never says CPS. No mention, no explanation, no overview, nothing.
Honestly, because it's irrelevant. Like, genuinely. It's not relevant. It's genuinely not relevant to the story. Because, you know, there's no
Members
evidence.
Go Up is paying my rent $25. Ian doesn't mention Lena or Hilla, doesn't blame the crew, doesn't mention CPS. Ethan, please, everyone, incite harassment on all and myself.
I totally forgot that I had a donation thing. Members Go Up, they were the $25 tip. It doesn't even pop up on my Twitch feed. Much appreciated. Huge W. Is it under my stream? I don't even remember. I don't think he wants iDubbbz to dissect the CPS situation. When chat said AB got ejected, I thought it was random TV show in the 2000s. I'll watch it in a second.
Zero mentions of CPS. A few weeks ago, Child Protective Services showed up to our house at 6 a.m. to interrogate us about an anonymous tip they got that our kids were crawling around and eating dog shit at catching diseases. Ian spends the majority—
Wait, is that what they said?
—of his video characterizing me like a—
Did CPS tell you that? Did CPS tell you we got an anonymous tip that your children were crawling around eating dog shit and catching diseases? Is that what CPS told you? That's interesting. Can you call CPS anonymously in their state? No. No, you cannot. No, also, why would CPS tell them that we're getting a call here because they said you're eating, or your children were crawling around eating dog shit and catching diseases? Why would they tell them that? I don't know. I don't know.
raving lunatic who's lashing out at everyone around me with zero provocation.
Maybe if Ethan's able to get some help.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's what you were doing. This didn't start in March. You were, yelling at Ian and Anissa in February before CPS showed up anyway. So, yeah, it's not relevant.
Maybe if he stops harassing other creators, maybe if he does these things, eventually he'll find peace and we can rekindle our friendship. And I feel like I am speaking up for a lot of people who have problems with you and a lot of people who have been on the receiving end of your harassment.
What he doesn't say is the majority of these clips he's using are taken from this episode. Now, does he ever show that—
Wait, what? What clips?
The majority of these clips he's using are taken from this episode.
I guess the clips were against Ian and Anissa. But again, they've been yelling at Ian and Anissa since February. It wasn't, again, majority of the clips, he says. Not all of the clips, right? Not all of the clips. So there was provocation from Ethan's side before this happened. The Froggy Tonic stuff happened before this, by the way. Them yelling at Ian and Anissa for for Froggy Tonic's tweets happened before this episode. And he just kind of skips over that. Right? Just kind of la-di-da-di-da, skips over that. To be like, this is how it all started. So he's lying here. Lie number 3. You feel me? What does it matter when it happened? What do you mean? Why does it matter when Ethan was sending harassment towards Ian and Anissa? Because if he's claiming that, this is where it started, and it actually started a month before this happened, then he's wrong. He's incorrect. You know what I mean?
Now, does he ever show the title of this episode? No, he does not ever show the title of this episode. Snark.
Because it's not relevant. How is it relevant? This entire underlying assertion is based on the foundation that Denham's called CPS on Ethan and Hila. No evidence for this, by the way. Zero evidence. They wouldn't even have any evidence, by the way. Right? CPS would not give them the name of the person who calls. He says that it's anonymous, his own words. You feel me? So he's claiming that like Denham's or Denham's chat called CPS. No evidence that that's the case. Therefore, Ian and Issa must make a public statement like yelling at Denham's or they're not friends anymore, even though there's no evidence that that's the case. Like even if it happened after CPS was called, it still doesn't give Ethan the right to harass people. Yeah, but like Ethan's gonna claim, oh, but like he's victimizing himself. That's it. This serves to victimize him, which is why I drew issues with like Phil DeFranco and even like Hassan and, you know, other like left-wing sources who were like giving credence to this CPS story, right? I drew issues with that because there was no evidence that it was like it was a Redditor or a snarker or whatever. And now Ethan is using it to once again victimize himself. See, I'm the victim here. I'm the small bean. I'm the small bean here. It's not that I, you know, got pro-Palestinian creators banned off of Twitch for like a full month before the election and during the election. It's not that I was doing very targeted mass harassment campaigns against creators who are smaller than me for the past year and a half. No, I'm the victim here. When again, I'm not even discounting that CPS was called. Maybe CPS was called. Maybe CPS showed up. There's no evidence that it was a snarker, or definitely no evidence that it was a Denham's watcher. If anything, you should be yelling at Bada Banana because Bada Banana said he called CPS. You know what I mean? Bada Banana admitted to it. Bada Banana was like, I called CPS. Yell at him. Why are you still writing this lie that you think that it's the Denham's watcher if Bada Banana has already admitted to doing it? I don't know what that's about. But again, there is no evidence of who called CPS. None. Right? And there's a reason why there's no evidence. It's by design why there's no evidence, by the way. It is by design. Because you don't want people to retaliate against people who call CPS on you. If that's the case, nobody would call CPS. Literally, the system is designed so that people cannot do what Ethan is doing. Like, directly. Because if the CPS told them, which he claims CPS did tell them, that it was somebody close to them that called CPS, and he just doesn't believe it. He just doesn't believe it. He's like, I don't believe it. So Ethan Klein claims that Denham's called CPS on him or whatever, or Denham's chat called CPS on him, even though he also simultaneously claims that the CPS officer told him that it was somebody that he knew. And he just assumes that it was like an internet hater that, it was an internet hater that like impersonates somebody that he knew. That's what he assumes. And nobody's even interrogating that, like, huh, maybe that doesn't make a lot of sense, actually. Maybe that makes a little bit of not sense. Maybe that's like kind of a crazy thing to imagine.
Called Child Protective Services on us. Not only does he not show the title, he doesn't explain why I'm upset, who I'm mad at, why I'm mad at them. Zero context.
No, he said you're mad at Denham's. He did say that.
I am just an anonymous, screaming lunatic.
It's been pleasant hanging out with you. I've enjoyed your content over the years. And as of late, it's gotten really fucking shitty.
Yeah, so go fuck yourself.
I agree.
Who else? Who else do we want to burn today?
Who else do we want to burn today? You're making it so fucking obvious that this is your emotional dumping ground. It's horrible. This is not what podcasts are. There was a way to approach this to say like, yeah, we feel hurt by you guys not saying something. You've decided to do the extra thing and attack.
In this episode, the same day that CPS came to my home, I was understandably irate. This was a provocation that I had not experienced. It went into my real world, was affecting my children and my life in a way that I found extremely disturbing and an escalation that I found very unacceptable. Now, why am I mad at Ian for this? Well, let's start here. Denims is someone he's accusing me of in his video of harassing. Let's see what Denim said about...
Yeah. Yes, you are harassing Denims. Is the first... You know what? Maybe Ethan's right. Maybe the first time he ever talked about Denims was during this whole CPS saga, right? No, I'm not going to check the information, right? No, I'm not going to verify if that's the case. Right? I'm just going to assume that that's the case. Like, no, you were harassing Denims. You've been harassing Denims. Denims is talking about you because you talk about Denims and you harass Denims. This is what you do. You did it like 2 weeks before that episode aired in the first place. You are a harasser. You were harassing Denims. Yes. Yes. Yes.
My children 3 days before CPS was called.
He lets his dogs shit all over his mansion, and he just leaves the shit on the floor, something that is probably related to the fact that his former housekeeper is suing him for a number of different reasons. So I would assume he doesn't actually have a housekeeper anymore, or perhaps he lost his extra housekeeper. So now the house is just
And now I don't believe CPS said, hey, we're here because somebody called CPS because you said they said your kids were eating dog shit off the floor. I don't believe CPS said that. I don't believe CPS operates like that. I would be real. Yep, we're here to verify the dog shit on the floor, actually, and see your kids eating it.
Covered in dog shit. And he has kids, and his kids like crawl into the dog shit, and God forbid, I don't know what they do with it. I don't know if they eat it or if it's just from like contact with it with their hands or something, but they contracted a parasite that I had previously never heard of in my life called Giardia from the dog shit that is all over his house.
Dude, how is it that like maybe once a week I look into what Ethan Klein's been up to, and every time I manage to find more and more terrible shit. This is where Ethan tells a story about his family getting Giardia.
We already have Mold Mondays. Now we have Shit Saturdays.
Also, this is not a joking matter, by the way. It can be very severe and deadly to small children. I mean, much like many other illnesses, it's very, very, very dangerous when infants get the same sicknesses that adults get. There are lots of things that you can get as an adult. You're totally fine. You'll be A-okay. No problem. A child, a small infant that has no immune system, shouldn't be catching anything.
No wonder his house is covered in dog shit, and his neglected children raised by nannies have contracted parasites previously unknown to science from the feces. I wonder why he skipped over all of this, because everything that he
also,
said...
I just love that like maybe 20% of the messages that he even shows reference CPS. Like this one just says, that's your kid, dude. And he's like, how dare you? You called CPS. Right? This poor child. How dare you? You called CPS. Like
everything that I said in this story, which by the way was apparently compiled by his crew.
No wonder this motherfucker's always sick. Yeah. It all makes sense now. It makes sense why he doesn't care about Palestinian children when he is neglecting his own. How is this happening? How is this happening? How is this happening? Yeah, I mean, I don't even make fun of people's weight. I've never made fun of people's weight. I do make fun of people's posture. Are there
two chats? I mean, because this chat is not a live chat. This is like an edited, Photoshop of like all the chats that like he thinks refers to calling CPS instead of like the actual live chat of what's actually being said here. That's why.
This is happening. How is it happening?
This clip doesn't make Ethan look good at all. Jen's refers to a clip of Ethan bringing this up in the first place. Yeah.
How is this happening? Yeah, I mean, I don't even make fun of people's weight. I've never made fun of people's weight. I do make fun of people's posture. If you're making an active decision that like you don't give a fuck about.
Man, his neck is going kind of crazy here. I'll say it. I got gamer neck too. Chat. I should probably sit up straight too. Like his neck is going kind of crazy.
Your health or your posture or your dog shitting all over the house to the point where your kids are getting Giardia.
Which is what Ethan said, by the way. I just want to point it out. Ben was not making this up. Ethan did say this. He said this. Or at least implied it. Okay. I'll be fair. He at least implied that this was the case. A very strong implication. Very, very strong implication.
That's the image of someone who is not well. Wait, what? Wait, what, Dems? Wait, what? You guys didn't know about this? Yeah. Meth Zempic diet. Oh, God.
Even after CPS was called, Denham's attempted to justify it by claiming that it's okay because children can't be traumatized.
I don't want you to create any bad memory here for them. Like, they are 5 and 3. They don't understand this shit. So I told him.
Create
I
any
love that
bad
this is
memory
like,
for them.
I love that this, my response to iDubbbz. Oh, wait, so he goes about Bad Empanada too? So he doesn't actually respond to Ian or the content cop. He's just saying, but have you heard about the CPS story? Because he did this video already, by the way. I'm like 99% sure that he already did this video. You know, it wasn't here. It was on his podcast. But he did this. He covered this extensively. To be fair, it wasn't on his podcast. So
You're not forming memories at 3 years old, and it's very rare that you're forming memories at 5 years old.
the Ethan Klein channel. No, we just looked at the Ethan Klein channel. This is Why Does Nobody Care?
The reason that we're doing
And this
this
is about like
name dropped me because
Twitch anti-Semitism or whatever. And then this one was
hi again, everyone.
Hassan's bad. It's on this channel, H3. No, it's not. The first video he posted was the content nuke. Oh, it was a content nuke.
Hey man,
Wait. In my long career.
Oh no, you're totally right. This is the exact same video. It's the exact same video. He just made the video again. And it was like, this is my response to Ian. All right, sure. Sure. It's the same video.
Sick, yeah. Yeah.
The same clips.
All makes sense now.
By the way, these people can't keep their talking points straight. On one hand, it's we don't raise our kids and our house is just run by nannies and housekeepers. But on the other hand, we also keep our house so dirty that there's dog shit everywhere. I mean, what are the housekeepers and nannies doing?
It all makes sense.
Suing you. Got him. Sorry. Anyway, let's go back to the video.
Nah, yes, you are. No, you're not. When we're talking about being able to remember, being able to recall memories, it's like 4.
Oh, wait. Sorry. I made a mention here somewhere. Where'd it go? There it is. Hey. Okay.
Cut off. But even if you
Why is the
are
bell so
forming any memories
crunchy?
at 4,
That's why.
you're not going to be able to remember them past like 15. You have maybe 1 or 2 memories.
If you're wondering who the guy is she's watching, his name is Bad Empanada. And as far as harassment campaigns go, you'd think that Ian, as someone who cares so deeply about it, would be talking about him and not me. Here's a small taste.
Okay.
I'd like to pay tribute to Ethan Klein and the new Twitch TOS that
And I want to point out that no matter how much Bad Empanada you mention, right, his harassment of Ethan Klein pales in comparison to Ethan Klein's harassment of everybody else.
declares Zionism. Zionist is a slur. I'd like to pay tribute to him by playing the first Al-Aqsa video game where you kill Zionist soldiers as a Palestinian resistance fighter. Anyways, are these Israelis? They're just standing there? I mean, is the Israeli army a bunch of Ethan Kleins? Like, they're all on a fucking Ozempic binge. They don't understand what's going on around them. They haven't noticed me. Where do they keep the secretaries? In here? I'm hunting for secretaries right now. Secretary got.
Here's Bad Empanada once again, who posted a.
I will say, like, Bad Empanada does know how to get under Ethan's skin. Like, he knows what buttons to push to make Ethan upset. Like, just straight up.
Story saying, I'm the one who called CPS on Ethan Klein. I want CPS to take his kids away because they are serious.
Yeah, so how's this Denham's fault? It's obviously Bad Empanada. Right? He did it. He said it. He called CPS. So how is iDubbbz responsible for it? Ian didn't defend Bana Banana. Ian didn't like, you know, feature Bana Banana on the video. So now we know that it's not Denims' community, and it's not Denims that called CPS. It was Bana Banana. So what's the issue?
Seriously in danger.
Today was pretty bad, wasn't it? Really sucked for you. You were so disappointed. The betrayal of one of your closest long-term...
He put this in the video? I had to make sure I was watching the right video for a second. He put this in here? Did Bana Banana send this to him?
Friends, huh? TikTok, though, Ethan. TikTok, because this was just a taste. This was just a small part of what we have organized for you. It's only gonna get worse. It's only gonna get worse, Mr. Klein. Every day, sit there just waiting in misery, in fear of what we have in store for you. TikTok goes the clock.
Maybe if he stops harassing other creators.
He lets his dogs shit all over his mansion, and he just leaves the shit on the floor.
Maybe if he does these things, eventually he'll find peace.
House is just like covered in dog shit. And he has kids, and his kids like crawl into the dog shit.
And I feel like I am speaking up for a lot of people who have problems with you.
I don't know what they do with it. I don't know if they eat it or if it's just from like contact with it with their hands or something.
I was particularly angry during this episode entitled Snark Called CPS on Us because I hold Denims to be one of the primary reasons, in my opinion, why CPS was called. Another one of their friends, Froggy Tonic, had been spreading the same malicious rumor about me on Twitter for days before CPS was called as well.
I used to work with this video editor named
Okay. This is what we call dishonesty, chat. Their issue with Froggy Tonic was not spreading the CPS rumors or whatever. Also, this happened before this part in Ian's video. This is what we call dishonesty. Dishonesty. And so he's pretending, or he's sitting here and he's acting like, oh, you know, Ian also had Froggy Tonic, who was also part of the CPS situation. When like Ian's issue during the Froggy Tonic situation is that you expect him to answer for like him saying that Hila is like a C word or whatever. You know what I mean?
Froggy Tonic. I discovered him because he was in the circles online that I was in. There would be an occasional Froggy tweet where I'd be like, I agree with that, you know? Like, I'm not gonna endorse it. I'm not gonna retweet it or like it, but fair enough. Now, my former editor of a year and a half ago did say some truly mean shit. He called Hila the C word. He said they're trying to kill their dog with cheddar cheese and a bunch of other shit, I'm sure.
Now let me show you the tweets that Ian conveniently omitted. Me when my 3 kids ask me why they haven't seen me in the past 4 months. I was in my basement. How can you shun a fallen fan when they worry about their 3 kids when they can't be bothered to protect their dogs? Ethan was neglectful with his dogs. He's already been neglectful with his kids, and he will continue to be. As a child of a neglectful, bipolar, narcissistic dad, that's precisely why I worry about Ethan's kids. I explained it on the podcast, but the truth of the matter is, it's all a lie. It's all wrong. The man is talking about my children. He's painting me as a terrible parent, a neglectful parent, and saying that he's, whose claim to fame as being iDubbbz' friend and former editor, is spreading malicious, damaging rumors about me that led to the CPS being called. Which, by the way...
Which is no evidence for, by the way. There's no evidence that Froggy Tonic's damaging rumors led to CPS being called. Because again, there's no evidence that CPS was called because of a snarker or called by a snarker. And there's also no evidence that it was due to like, you know, Ethan's house potentially being very poopy. Because yeah, they wouldn't tell Ethan. So I just don't necessarily believe what he's saying.
Ian does not explain one time. Did not mention why I'm angry at Froggy Tonic. He did not mention why I'm angry
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. He does though. Like that's a direct lie.
Your girlfriend into this conversation.
Like to me is that you did see it at the time and you're like, ooh, I don't like that, and you didn't endorse it and you didn't fuck with it. Huh? It's almost like that is a fucking identical situation to me.
It's just incredible who ends up being the good guys in this story. You know, it's really something.
So yeah, the reason I'm bringing this up is because they're trying to like paint themselves as the good guy. Follow on Twitter is not in the same relationship as you and one of your current
here.
doing anti-Semitism, and also he's way out of my weight class.
He didn't like that, but fucking sometimes you gotta just throw something out there. I used to work with this video editor named Froggy Tonic.
Yeah,
I
I'll slow
discovered
down.
him because he was in the circles online that I was in. And one of those circles is an H3 fan. He watched Ethan's content, he liked Ethan's content, until he didn't like Ethan's content. There would be an occasional Froggy tweet where I'd be like, I agree with that, you know? Like, I'm not gonna endorse it, I'm not gonna retweet it or like it, but fair enough.
I guess I just miss my old friend. Some wings are too bird feathered colored.
Now that brings us to February 28th of this year. Now, my former editor of a year and a half ago did say some truly mean shit. He called Hila the C word, he said they're trying to kill their dog with cheddar cheese, and a bunch of other shit, I'm sure. Ethan, at some point, discovers that iDubbbz' former editor says this horrendous shit about him and Hila. But no one's asking the question.
So yeah, what is he talking about? He's objectively incorrect. This idea that like, oh, Ian is not talking about why I'm mad at my former editor when he does address it directly in the content cop. But again, lying is OP. OP.
At Denims, he did not mention the name of the episode. He did not mention what the episode was about. He actually has a perfect opportunity to explain the CPS call, but watch what he does here instead.
Now, my former editor of a year and a half ago did say some truly mean shit. He called Hila the C word.
Yeah.
He said they're trying to kill their dog with cheddar cheese and a bunch of other shit.
What other shit, Ian? Other shit is doing a lot of heavy lifting, man.
Not really. Do you think that Froggy Tonic with his, as Ian put on the screen, or whatever wherever it is like 1,000 followers, right? Cause CPS to be called to your house? And also, it said in February. Wait, did he put that in here?
Episode was about. He actually has a perfect opportunity to explain the CPS call, but watch what he does here instead.
Now, my former editor of a year and a half ago did say some truly mean shit. He called Hila the C word. He said they're trying to kill their dog with cheddar cheese and a bunch of other shit.
What other shit, Ian? Other shit is doing a lot of heavy lifting, man. Now, why does this...
Like, I'm pretty sure that this stream... Okay, now I have to find out. When did this stream happen? I'm pretty sure it happened before. I'm pretty sure it happened before the CPS situation. Is this the one?
Since it is your host,
No, he's not wearing a hat here. No. This one? No. 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 I don't think it's this one either.
February.
I saw a button for a second. No, this is before. I don't know, where is it? Here?
Are you planning on that?
Yeah, this is the episode. Right? I think this is the episode. Yeah, same hat, I think. We're looking for? I'm trying to figure out, because Ethan is claiming here that Ian is not addressing why Froggy Tonics is involved, and he's like, Froggy Tonics is involved in this situation because of the CPS situation. But I'm like, I'm pretty sure that like Ethan talked about Froggy Tonic before the CPS situation even happened in the first place. Right? That's sort of my point. Man, I could be wrong. Let me check. Okay, it's not this episode. This one?
Favorite?
No, different shirt.
Yeah. This guy, Froggy Tonic. No.
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Don't. First of all, Zach. Love can't say hit it. He doesn't have that.
Okay, well, this is after the CPS situation, I'm pretty sure. I think. So maybe I'm incorrect. Maybe I'm wrong here. Then when was this episode? Okay, when was this episode, chat? This one?
Used. I mean, yeah, you could.
Was that was 2 days later? March 5th, 2025. March 7th, 2025. Okay. So this one to this one. But he didn't have CPS called on him on this day. Or have show up on this day. I'm confused about the timeline has confused me now. So when did he say CPS showed up? You say they showed up on the 5th? When he got us all confused. I'm sure it's on a Wednesday episode. The morning of the CPS. So they showed up on the morning of the CPS episode. So on the 7th. 2-3 days after Den's reacted. Okay. So what was the original claim? I'm confused. Okay, run it back.
Ian does not explain one time.
Does he talk about Ian and Anissa during this episode? I don't think that's it. No, that's different Ian. It was a March 7th episode. So they talked about Ian and Anissa for the Froggy Tonic thing during the March 7th episode as well. Right? I thought they talked about Ian and Anissa before that as well. I don't know, maybe not. I'm honestly not going to watch enough of Oz to find out. So I would imagine that, like, okay, they only talked about Ian and Anissa on the CPS episode and tied them to Froggy Tonic and to Denims.
Why I'm angry at Froggy
But how is, okay, how did they get in, okay, now I'm curious. I'm confused as well. Again, how did they even get involved? Here.
And yeah, that's what I really feel.
Yeah, friends like these.
Oh yeah, and our other good friends.
Yeah.
Anissa and Ian. Yeah. Thanks, Anissa, for standing up for your girl. I actually stood up for you so many times, because, like, why would I
feel like they called out Ian and Anissa before this. Am I making that up? I might be making that up, honestly. March 1st, mention of iDubbbz by Ethan. Okay, thank you. It was an Instagram story. It was an Instagram story. You are totally right. Yeah. There was great irony in the iDubbbz former editor attacking me through Hila, blaming Hila for corrupting me. It's exactly the same sustained malicious harassment that Anissa received for years. I wonder if he had a problem with that. Such disgusting misogyny to remove the agency from me and put it on Hila. Yeah. Okay. So March 1st, they were sending pot shots at Ian and Anissa. And then they doubled down on the March 7th episode. When CPS was allegedly called. Yeah, this was before the CPS call too. When did Ian tweet the joke about Creator Clash fight between Hassan and Ethan? I don't know. See, the timeline's getting all messed up, all confusing. We need a timeline, actual timeline. This is February 26th. Okay, we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna get down to the root of it. We're gonna go to here, and we're gonna go to the February 26th or 27th episode to see if they talked about it live on stream.
About the trans community, if you don't know, I don't know.
It's February 3rd. Okay. I want this one.
Favorite, most charismatic.
February 19th. Too early. February 26th. Okay. Ian.
Excuse me. I mean, how does he get away with this? He's imagine I was like, "You're so. What are you, a scaredy pants? What are you, some?"
Okay, no, he just coughed. That was a cough. That wasn't Ian.
For the people. Oh, so
iDubbbz. I can't spell. Dub. Okay, yeah.
Think that it's.
Oh, what is this?
I think that it's.
I think it's a good option there.
I think it's fucking. I like iDubbbz. He's a good guy, but I don't like this stupid. It's not a fucking petty beef. It's like this guy is evil and he's doing anti-Semitism.
Okay, but he liked iDubbbz here.
Way out of my weight class.
That's true. It's got way bigger hands.
It's not even a good joke.
I hate to say it, but the hand.
So he was pro iDubbbz on February 26, 2025. And then on March 1st, he started throwing pot shots at iDubbbz by attacking him through his former editor, by being like, oh, his former editor represents you. And iDubbbz didn't respond. Right. Or messaged them personally. Right. Messaged them personally. And was like, and they had a conversation that Ethan ended because he wouldn't call them. And then 7 days or 6 days later, Froggy Tonic said something about CPS. And like Ian's responsible for that to happen. That's the timeline, if I understand it.
He did not mention why I'm angry at Denims. He did not mention the name of the episode. He did not mention what the episode was about. He actually has a perfect opportunity to explain the CPS call, but watch what he does here instead.
Now, my former editor of a year and a half ago...
Like, your beef with Ian started before the CPS call, though. That's what I don't understand. Right? That's what I don't get. Is that his beef with Ian started before the CPS call. This tweet happened before the CPS call. He started blaming Ian for what his former editor was tweeting before the CPS call. So why would it be relevant to the discussion, right, when you were already attacking Ian for or through Froggy Tonic before the CPS call. That's not why you were mad at Ian. You were not mad at Ian for cozying up to Froggy Tonic because of the CPS call. You were mad at Ian because he's not like publicly denouncing this person who doesn't work with him. Right? 7 days before the CPS call even like was even mentioned. So he's lying.
Did say some truly mean shit. He called Hila the C word. He said they're trying to kill their dog with cheddar cheese and a bunch of other shit.
What other shit, Ian? Other shit is doing a lot of heavy lifting, man. Now, why does this matter? Because Anissa was yucking it up with these guys during the period in which they were spreading this rumor.
That's not true. Okay, he's lying. This is a direct, provable lie. This is a direct, provable lie from Ethan Klein's own words. This is the screenshot that he's showing on his freaking video is from February 28th, which is the time where he still liked Ian. His own words. I like iDubbbz. February 26th.
I think it's fucking, I like iDubbbz. He's a good.
February 26th. He liked him. So Ethan Klein himself was cozying up to Ian and Anissa the same time. The same exact time. So what is he talking about? What is he talking about? What is he talking about? Do you expect Anissa to know that, you know, 2 days, or not 2 days later, freaking like 3 days later? Wait, sorry, February 28th and then March 1st. Sorry. The day after this, I forgot February has 28 days. Or not a leap year. The day after this, that Froggy Tonic said, you know, CPS, the word CPS. She was like, have like look into the future and have future insights about that beforehand.
These guys during the period in which they were spreading this rumor and when the CPS call was made.
He's wrong. He's incorrect. He's lying about this. He's lying about this.
CPS call is central to understanding this story. You cannot.
That's also not true. You were harassing Ethan and Ethan. Sorry, you were harassing Ian and Anissa before the CPS call was made.
This story without that context, and to try to tell this story without including that detail, it would be the most bad faith, cruel, gaslighting hit piece of all time.
LOL. He loves his buzzwords, which I respect.
Unfortunately, that's exactly what he did. He convinced his audience that the reason that I'm mad, that I'm lashing out, simply because I'm a raving lunatic. I am crashing out. I'm just crazy and harassing his friends for no reason. And by the way, to my good friend...
Well, yes, actually. Number one. And number two, that's also not what he said. If it's what he said, that would be correct, but it's not what he said. He said that he understands why you were angry because because Ian and Anissa didn't run to your defense. Which is also kind of funny because Hassan did run to their defense and he's still mad about Hassan. He still hates Hassan. Hassan did defend him directly on the CPS incident and he still hates Hassan. So what are we talking about?
Ian of 8 years, I really appreciate you weaponizing my mental health against me.
To make Ethan crash out. He's having...
Come on, dude. Saying Ethan's crashing out is weaponizing his mental health. Oh, what a baby. Oh, what a baby. You're gonna cry? You're gonna cry? You're gonna cry?
A parasocial weird crash out. People can have crash out moments. Maybe if Ethan's able to get some help.
Someone who I've confided in over the years with my struggles with it, who understands what I've been through, the lengths
How
that I've
dare
gone
you
to work.
say I am crashing out? You are weaponizing my mental health. That's almost as bad as the R slur. Like, come on, bro. Come on, bro.
Work on myself and improve my mental condition. For him to throw that in my face, to characterize anything I'm doing as crashing out, that I need help, that I need to get some kind of treatment, is cruel and pathetic on a level I didn't think he would ever be possible of doing. One ridiculous point he keeps hammering on is that I'm hating on him, I'm harassing him, simply because he's following people on Twitter.
We're not going to run to your defense when, I don't know, we follow people. We be following. That's one fucked up thing that you can say about Anissa and I is when we're on Twitter, we do be following.
I'm not upset, Ian, because you follow people. That is absurd.
I mean, a little bit, because again, this happened before the CPS incident. You know what I mean? This happened before the CPS incident, and you were mad at Ian for like his former editor, expecting him to answer for his former editor. So a little bit, it does sound like your issue is not necessarily like they're following them, but kind of that they are having a benign association that you've deemed to be unacceptable.
Mad because you are actively engaging with these people on social media, in DMs.
But okay. Again, this is him like, what he's talking about like in DMs, he's talking about Anthony from the Do Not Worry podcast, right? Because I don't think Ian and Anissa DM'd the Froggy Tonic. I don't think they were DMing Denims. Right? And so he's, again, bringing in something that is completely unrelated to be like, oh, these people you are DMing, even though he's specifically referenced Froggy Tonic and Denims here, which there's no evidence that they were DMing, or in Bada Panada, no evidence they were DMing those people. Right? To pull this association in when is not applicable.
While this harassment is happening, seemingly indifferent to it, silent on it, in a sense, I felt like you were more on their side than my side.
Our silence means something. It means that we would like to pause this relationship until you figure your shit out.
Our silence means something. That's exactly what we felt. Wow, it's almost like we were right about you. There's something that I've never talked about publicly, but around the same time, we received 2 human skulls in the mail at our home, which led us to having a very pleasant interview with the FBI. Things have progressed well past the point of that's just what the internet does. Ian had a recent revelation. He's transcended into a new person. He's achieved nirvana and discovered empathy at age 32.
I think only in these past couple of years have I gained the ability empathy.
I mean, I don't think that he thinks that these are like actual legitimate human skulls. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that he thinks that that's the case. You know what I mean? I mean, like legitimate skulls that have been pulled off of like a body and sent to him, right? He means like they've bought a human skull and then they sent him a human skull. Like, I don't think that he thinks that like they're like legitimate, like, you know, yeah, they're props. You know what I mean? Essentially. They're not like actually like pulled from like a human body. It was like, we're gonna get you with this or whatever. You feel me?
And I'm very ashamed to admit that. It sounds really pathetic to say at the age of 32.
I've acquired $1,100. Is that the point? They refunded the skulls. Okay, like listen, I'm not gonna. Okay. We can get into like about like, okay, let's talk about Skullgate and how like they've potentially bought the skulls themselves and then refunded it after they were done. I don't have any evidence that was the case. They ready to dive in? I don't care. Legitimately. I do not care. It does not matter to me. I'm sure y'all love this, right? Because I think like chat who like loves just getting into drama. Like this is like they love they love Tattoogate, they love Skullgate. It's fun. I genuinely do. I don't care. Like, and the reason why I don't care is because Ethan doesn't care. You feel me? Because it's an offhanded mention about, oh, by the way, we got skulls into our house. Anyway, let's move on. Ethan doesn't care about this. Ethan is like, he added it to maybe make it look like a little bit, you know, bad to make Ian like, you know, like how dare things are like we're such victims. But he doesn't even really care about it. Right? Because if he did care about it, he would spend more time talking about it. You feel me? Richard's going to be on the docket for his episode today. Then we'll see. We'll see. Right? But it doesn't appear like he truly cares. Right? Because it's been like over a month since the CPS stuff happened in the first place. This is the first he's speaking of it. Very casually in a video replying to iDubbbz instead of being like, you know, hey, this scary thing happened to us. This is what happened, you know, or whatever. We don't have any evidence about who sent the skulls, if the skulls were sent, where the skulls were sent from, right? I'm sure the FBI, if the FBI is involved, will do an investigation and will catch the person who sent the skulls. Right? It wouldn't even be difficult to find out. They had to have bought the skulls with some level of information. It's not like they bought it off the dark web or whatever. I'm sure the FBI could find out who sent the skulls and where they sent the skulls from, right? And they can arrest the person. And if that's the case, I hope they do find the person. But again, there's just not a lot of evidence. And Ethan himself is not taking it as seriously as like you would think he would be. If he felt like he was a true danger. Right? He felt like it was a true danger to him and his family. Right? He didn't even spend more than 10 seconds on it, chat.
Until you figure your shit out.
Our silence means something. That's exactly what we felt. Wow, it's almost like we were right about you. There's something.
And then, okay, from 1355.
Thing that I've never talked about publicly, but around the same time, we received 2 human skulls in the mail at our home, which led us to having a very pleasant interview with the FBI. Things have progressed well.
He spent 13 seconds on it. He spent 13 seconds on the human skulls. Someone posted in their chat that CPS call is more serious. They're already downplaying it. Because it's like, even Ethan doesn't care about it. Even Ethan doesn't care about it. Right? And I feel like the snarkers are making it a bigger thing than it actually is. Because, like, does anybody care? Is anybody like, oh, how dare the snarkers do this? And maybe it will catch on. Maybe it will become a thing. Maybe they're like, wow, how dare the snarkers do this to them? But like, they don't care.
Well past the point of, that's just what the internet does. Ian had a recent revelation. He's transcended into a new person. He's achieved nirvana and discovered empathy at age 32.
I think only in these past couple of years have I gained the ability empathy, and I'm very ashamed to admit that. It sounds really pathetic to say at the age of 32 I've acquired empathy, but I have, and I've realized it because I just like can't help myself. But
also, like, if you genuinely think this is a swastika, would you be like, is that a question mark, question mark, question mark? Like, he doesn't care. Ethan does not care about anti-Semitism. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. These are all talking points that he can utilize whenever he so chooses to do so. Right? He said on stream, who was it? Exactly. Right? Which, again, he just throws out these claims that could very well fall into like a defamatory manner. Right? Because he knows he's incorrect by doing this, but he still insinuates this claim that it's a swastika against his perceived enemy because he thinks it will make them look bad. Right? He knows it's incorrect. He knows it's wrong. He knows.
Help myself, but like feel for other people's pain and suffering now. I'm still not perfect.
This is a great picture. With the Queen in the background with the cross-eyed eyes and Bernie Sanders. It's a great picture.
I think that is, my empathy meter's only maybe like a quarter of the way filled up, potentially, but it's at least there.
In the spirit of his newfound enlightenment, he had this to say.
I have made some cruel, hurtful content, and I need to acknowledge that, and I'm really sorry that it's taken me
Yeah, he's talking about the slurs, Ethan. I know it seems, kind of crazy to apologize for saying slurs, but he's talking about the slurs. Maybe if you had apologized for saying slurs, right, we would feel this way about you as well, which he has not properly done. So I would like to see Ethan Klein's apology for saying slurs. I hope you can find this for me.
To acknowledge it. The content I'm talking about specifically are content cop videos and videos where I was just generally criticizing people for very lackluster reasons and, you know, obviously didn't have any accountability online whatsoever on my end. I was morally grandstanding and acting as if I am any better than any of these people that I was making content cop videos on, and I'm not. I'm a human. I'm a real human who makes mistakes, and, you know, I make a difference.
Also, I love that comedy is not illegal. You can't make a little jokey joke intro. You know what I mean? The middle finger, the most harmful thing to ever exist, actually. It is, you know, it almost is, you know, it's even worse than saying the N-word like Ethan used to do. You know? It's the worst thing ever. Yeah, not the Nazi salute. When he does it, it's fine. It's comedy, right? It's a parody, right? But the middle finger, oh, man, it's completely unacceptable and harmful and hurtful.
Different set of mistakes.
Honestly, I just kind of like that it gets under Ethan's skin. This is confirmation that it gets under Ethan's skin, and I think that's good.
Than the people I was making videos on, but it doesn't matter. I don't think anyone deserves that level of cruelty or hate. It's also,
and I will say, I respect his commitment to the bit to not play my segment. Only play. I'm surprised he doesn't cut me out of the entire frame.
Indoctrinated a lot of people.
Maybe he does,
thinking
though.
that this is an okay way to behave, and it's not.
What happened? Am I so uniquely evil that you're willing to abandon your newfound principles after, what, less than a year? What is it that I've done, Ian, that makes me more detestable than any of the other people that you've content copped?
Defend genocide. Confirmed.
And for what did you do this? To revitalize your dying career? This entire video reeks of desperation, of being thrown together, and poorly researched. I don't really even understand why they did
so bad, by the way.
This, and I can't imagine that it's going to be worth it. Thanks for the 8 years of friendship, buddy. Have fun with your new friends.
I mean, at least we don't defend genocide. Got him. Okay. You shot at them first? No, listen, that's you can't bring that up, chat. You can't bring that up. Yeah, we're gonna have a phenomenal time. We are gonna have a phenomenal time. Why does Rogan get so many videos on her? Where are all my videos? Where's my Morbeckis' video?
Okay, we gotta.
Came out a day ago. Where's mine at? I'm looking. I thought it was me. This is just a different black person. Man, one day I'll get my own. One day I'll get my own. BM Binder, thank you for the 6-month in advance subscription an hour ago. I totally did not forget to read that. Well, I think that covers pretty much everything. He's gonna go live today. My money, okay, here's what I'm saying. He's gonna talk about Skullgate and how scary it was. He's going to talk about AB's gonna be back. And I think he's gonna force AB to defend him and defend his absence by saying he was sick. He's gonna watch this video, this entire video, on his live stream. And yeah. Those are my 3 things. Clip it, because I think it's gonna be correct. I think it's gonna be correct. Any final thoughts? So I do have a meeting I have to go to. Number 1, RIP to Woke Pope. RIP to the Woke Pope. I have a bigger doctor's note. Vance killed him 100%. JD Vance killed him. JD Vance killed him. That's my thoughts. And yeah. Anything else? Also, bye, YouTube chat. You missed the entire Pope section, but it'll be on my VOD channel. I gotta start posting on there again. Honestly, shout out my VOD channel. Hank said it's being replaced. No, he's not. Stop. No, Hexeth is not being replaced. No, he's not. That's so funny. Okay, why? Okay, what did he do? Oh, is it because of is it because he once again sent things, confidential information another time? The second signal chat to his wife? Yeah, no, he's gone. He's gone, bro. Yes, a second signal chat has hit the news. Oh no. Wait. Okay. Yeah. Honestly, I think it's infinitely more likely that it's JD Vance, but like, it's funny to imagine that it's also Jimmy Fallon. You can only deal with so much evil in one day. You know what I mean? You can only deal with so much evil in one day. Also, peace to chat. Goodbye.